Okay. I got these fake followers. Weird. Why do I get fake followers? Okay. Well,
Hello world.
Melon. Melon on the shelf. Hi. Hi. Want me to go? Want me to go stream on somebody else's stream? Want me to go? I don't know. Do something in particular? I've been banned. I've been banned from Tina too. How about Hutch? Do you know Hutch? Oh, there looks like there's too many people. I'm not gonna be able to have a proper discussion. 200 viewers, I think, is a bit much already. Yesterday, I had a discussion with 50 people. How about, I don't know, Point? Oh no, that's French, Russian. And then the other one is not enough. I kind of go for like between 20. Yeah, she's just gonna get pissed off. I think this is just a rebroadcast, so there's nothing useful for me. Nothing useful for me at this point. Yeah, let's look at some videos.
No original streaming here?
I mean, I do anything. I do lots of different things. No, so I'll just go watch like a video or something. Why is critical race? Oh yeah, I already watched this. I don't know. Do you wanna watch this stuff? I don't know. I mean,
I got banned for being a mod in your channel.
I unmodded everyone actually. Where did you get banned from? Hi, governess. Do you want to melon on the shelf? Do you want to talk? Do you want me to talk about my basic like stuff I support in politics? Like, I support universal basic income, government paid healthcare, income cap and wealth cap. But I don't actually support socialism. Don't support anarchism. I don't support fascism. Like, so that's I still keep the sort of liberal economies that we have now. That is, I mean, if you want in a nutshell, that is what
Social Democrat, got it?
Yeah, but kind of different from the usual social democrat thing. I mean, but yeah, um, basically that.
Seems
But
good.
I mean, I can get more in detail if you want. I can talk more in detail about the stuff I support. That was very much in a nutshell. But like lots of social democrats actually support quite different policies from what I do. So I mean, that's not the typical social democrat. Is pretty much just like just classical liberalism, but with a bit of like safety net stuff.
Well, what makes you different?
Well, like I said, I support universal basic income. The typical social democrat actually often does not. It's not necessarily some of that social democrats support. Um, the fact that again, like I said, I support a cap on income and wealth. So there's a maximum income, maximum wealth. Typical social democrats are actually they're pretty much just basic classical liberals with just a bit with extra safety nets, basically. So I have that, so I really constrain that there are really strong, hard limits on how much inequality between people there can be, which typical social democrats they don't have that. Um, So I would say that that's the main difference. And then of course I've got just my specific, my specific policies. I mean, I basically prefer having UBI to like welfare, other types of welfare. I think UBI is better. Universal basic income, where everybody gets no matter the employment status, you get a certain check like every month. I think that's better. Um, and then otherwise, I would say my positions are pretty, like pretty much the sort of typical stuff you'd expect from like social democrat type persons. So like I'm anti torture, anti death penalty. I'm like in favor of protecting people from discriminations. I'm in favor of abolishing marriage. That's maybe a bit different from often. Like I'd get rid of state sanctioned marriage. Um, so instead, you just have like like you could have some sort of private contract between people or something if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have like different tax rates given to you by the
Secular.
state. Secular, yeah. I would, you'd keep like freedom of association, freedom of thought and speech and that kind of thing, so you could still do your religion and stuff. But I'm not pro religion. I definitely not want to have any sort of religious thing in the state. Um, then for drugs, I'm not pro drugs. I don't like drugs, but I would still also legalize it, just like for religion. So to just not have it go underground, to have it be done more safely, to avoid having the issues of the black market, so that way people who've got addictions can be properly taken care of. So like that. Um, I don't know if there's anything else. Yeah, kind of the same thing for guns. Just like drugs, guns, like you legalize them, but you tax them. You can tax, and you could require like a license for guns or something potentially. Um, and then I don't know, is there like other other stuff that's that's already covered quite a lot, I think. Um, oh yeah, public school. I'm in favor of, so I'm in favor of publicly funding schools, as is already like often the case. What I think I don't like is local funding. Like for me, all taxation should be universal. You shouldn't have like local tax collection. You shouldn't. So there should. I mean, I want. That's another thing is that social democrats are pretty content in just keeping this sort of system of separating people to different independent states. I don't support that. Um, I want a universal society with just one single like you know system of like governance, and with a democracy. Um, there'd be a single legislative, um, and the legislative would be consistent in a single chamber. You wouldn't have like the two chamber system like you have in various places. But you'd also have direct democracy, so that people could directly like vote on particular laws, but not all of them because it'd be too much. Um,
I will call you a not quite socialist. Laughing
okay,
face.
okay. Yeah, except I actually don't like I still support like free like not free but like markets. I support market economies and not the kind of highly regulated market economies they have like with market socialism. Like I wouldn't have the government, take own more of the economic production, own more of companies than is currently the case. Um, so in that respect, I would actually not necessarily be it's not necessarily socialist in that sense. Like it's definitely not socialist because I'd have still private enterprise, liberal market economies like we have now. So the system overall would be the same. Um, I think I'm much more of a liberal overall than a socialist, but it's just that it's a liberal that limits inequalities. But the system is much closer to liberalism. Um, it is liberalism. Then I support judiciary should not be appointed. Judiciary should either be elected or drawn by lots by randomly. Same for the executive. You can have local. The legislative would only be one universal legislative. Um, whereas like the executive and judiciary, they can be local executives and judiciaries. Um, then so that's kind of the political system. Taxation, the main source of taxation would be a flat tax on all income. Um, so that comes to that. Um, the income including also like capital gains, returns on investment, gifts in kind gifts like from barter and stuff. donations, inheritance, all that is just added together, all considered income. Then you have a flat tax on that. That would be the main source of income, and otherwise, what you need is you maximize the sources of taxes from taxes that aren't economically like hurtful. So those would be taxes either on rent seeking or on negative externalities. So which you could say that rent seeking is a form of negative externality in a way. So the tax on rent seeking is is basically like land value tax, because like literally people just make money sometimes from just holding on to some land without doing anything with it, so it's not productive. So that's a tax on rent seeking, a land value tax. Then there's another tax on rent seeking, which is a corporate tax that's proportional to the size of the corporation. So there's a progressive tax, unlike the income tax, which is flat. There's a progressive tax on corporations based on their revenue and not on their profits. Um, so because basically bigger corporations are able to undercut smaller corporations simply by virtue of being bigger. So that is um, that is why we need to even the playing field so that smaller corporations, smaller businesses are equally competitive with bigger businesses. Um, then there's a tax on um, negative externalities. So that's a tax, for instance, on anything that can harm the economy in the long run, and that isn't taken into account in the price. So that's a tax on carbon tax, for instance, is the most talked about tax on negative externalities, like literally because it's like cost the economy something to make carbon. So you internalize the externalities, you put the societal cost of it onto the actual price. Um, so I support that. I support tax on pollution, taxes on waste, and like negative taxes on undoing waste. So if somebody actually sucks carbon out of the atmosphere and puts it back in the ground or something, then you subsidize that, right? It's a negative tax. Same for somebody who recovers waste. Then I support taxes on junk food, taxes on alcohol. Um, so that also I and drugs, taxes on drugs, taxes on junk food, taxes on drugs. Um, Basically because those are unhealthy, so they lead to like disease, which then costs. And then a tax on financial transactions because to limit speculation, to limit sort of rapid lots of transactions, which is not really useful for the economy. So there, that's my tax policy, and I think we can pretty much fix the issues of the economy with that, which is a proper tax policy. So that is me. That is me. If anybody's still here, if you're still here, please say so. Okay. at the end. Man.
The right position, and most of the governors are winning these lawsuits.
They're in the right position in that. I mean, but how does it work procedurally? The federal government passes this subsidy act, which grants benefits to the states. First of all, for the states who opt in and receive those benefits, what obligations do they have towards the state in the long run? Do they have to reimburse this? Do they have to do anything vis-a-vis the state?
These are just, it's the federal government writing checks to the states to supplement their unemployment. And what it is the states don't have to take the money. There are certain circumstances where they do, but this is not one of those.
All right. So basically, DeSantis is saying it's a free carrot. There's no, I mean, I guess it's a carrot on a stick, but it's a free carrot. You get it. You owe us nothing except for the damage it does in terms of national debt or whatever. And so DeSantis says, I don't want it. I want to kickstart the economy by cutting these benefits and pushing people back to work. And the beneficiaries are saying, but the government, the federal promised us something that you're refusing and we think we're entitled to it. So we want to compel you. I think they're going by the mandamus vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, to accept the federal subsidies to then give to us. I guess, I mean, that's the argument.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the South Park episode where Cartman tries to keep the hippies out of South Park. And the politicians get the bad idea that it would be easy money to get bring in all the hippies. And of course, it brings an epidemic of hippies that requires extraordinary remedy in the end. So it has aspects of that from a cultural, political standpoint. But the governor should win, and because it's not been required that you take the money and issue it in the way that the feds may want.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, I mean, even to compel the state to accept federal money would be sort of a usurpation or an encroachment on state independence, which is primordial in the United States under the system as it is kind of in Canada under the provincial system.
Yep. I mean, it's why the states can do sanctuary cities and sanctuary counties. They can't be usurped to do the federal government's job for it. And if they want to opt out, they can opt out. And there's only a few circumstances where they can't, that are inapplicable here.
All right. We never knew the Depression.
Speaking of governments, nothing beats what the Mexican government did this week.
Oh, yeah. All right, Robert. Okay, so look, I didn't read the lawsuit. I read a few articles. I had to try to catch up early. Mexican government is suing Smith & Wesson for victims of gun violence in Mexico, correct? I didn't misunderstand. Of cartel violence?
Yeah, exactly. They're suing every big gun manufacturer in the United States, blaming them for the Mexican drug cartels killing people in Mexico.
I'm going to ask the first question. I don't know what stage of the proceedings we're at. How does this pass the jurisdiction stage? Because it's a foreign plaintiff suing, let's just say, an American defendant for damages which occurred in a foreign country, ultimately. They're not suing for damages which occurred in the United States. I mean, are they even going to pass? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, deliberately so. Because there's a federal law that immunizes gun manufacturers in the United States for anybody using their gun in a criminal, unlawful manner, unless the gun manufacturer themselves violated federal state law in the process of distributing the gun or making the gun. And so their specific claim is that they're not requesting any relief at all for any.
Yeah, that would actually make an awful lot of sense.
The government of Mexico have standing.
I mean, I think it's a bold statement to say purely
you can, as a foreign government, you can sue
the real cause. There's other reasons for that as well. It's a contributing factor, I would say.
Actions in the United States that had bad consequences in a foreign country. Now, whether or not this was intended to be a huge loophole in the federal statute, well, first they sued in Massachusetts. I don't know why gun manufacturers, I get historically why, but why they still have operations of any substance in any state, democratic state, they're foolish to do it. because they'll just be sued into oblivion, and that's why Mexico is sued, because
You could say that.
all of these guns have been distributed.
The truth
along
is,
the
I don't know
border
for a
at
fact.
US gun
I would be
So
inclined
what
to
happens
agree.
is people go into U.S. gun stores, buy the guns, and then at various levels
They are
either
what the
sell them to
mafia
someone else or
was
smuggle them across the
during
border.
apartheid.
And somehow this is all the U.S. gun manufacturers' fault. When you look into what they're wanting the U.S. government, the U.S. gun manufacturers, what they want the U.S. gun manufacturers to do, they want them to make all of these kind of weapons, any kind of assault weapon, but ultimately probably every gun. They want them to make them smart guns, so that your fingerprint would be connected to a
prohibition.
government database, and only someone with that fingerprint or other biometric identification could ever use that gun.
Did I say
It's an
apartheid?
attempt at
I think I
massive
said
gun control
apartheid.
by subterfuge. They want to force U.S. gun manufacturers to limit who they sell to put
Yes, I meant
traces
prohibition.
on all the guns, to put biometric smart identification on all their guns, to restrict what guns they can even sell in
That
the
was
first
not
place.
what I meant to
Under the
say.
guy, they're like, this has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It has everything to do with the Second Amendment. They're trying to find another way to circumvent and circumnavigate the constitutional and statutory limitations on the
What's up,
ability
Rob?
of people to sue gun
Did you
manufacturers
just get back?
by
Nice,
just
welcome
saying
back.
we're a foreign government, so we're outside of all of it.
I just think Theophrastus 3.0 says, without a doubt, Biden encouraged Mexico to do this. I guess the one question is, why sue now over this in particular, whereas no lawsuit was filed over just thinking Fast and the Furious, which would probably be an easier
Leftists
claim
are
to
so
make,
dumb.
I assume.
They go out of their way.
Who's this? Listen to
Praise
Chelga.
the
Hi.
US government, praise
Yeah.
ATF,
Although,
praise-
I mean,
we have no
it's always
criticism
weird
of the
because
US
they've got like
government policy.
sort of
No criticism of
overall
the
their
US government
policies,
agencies.
you know,
They're just
like
not
are
able to do things that the gun
off. Some of them are not bad.
manufacturers
Like
can
most
do
of them, I
and
think,
legally
are
must
not
do.
bad.
The theory
I mean,
is
at least
that
sort of
US gun
superficially.
manufacturers, by
Um,
not taking these
and
extreme
like I feel like
actions of
their ethical
surveilling,
principles
tracing, tracking all
are
of
like
their guns,
pretty
who
pretty
uses
good
them,
like
who can
overall.
use them,
That's
how they can be used,
yes,
But then
that
like
makes
then
they can be sold.
like
makes
you
even
can
more
see that
sense
that's
now.
actually like really
For the most
conformist.
part, what looks like they're
Unfortunately,
calling
like
for
you can see that it's
is
really
removing almost all these
I
gun
don't know.
sales come along
Like
gun
it doesn't
shops,
actually
shops
stem
along the
from
border.
like
No
logical,
reason
rational
to
thinking.
list it. They
You know,
just
it stems
say
from
suing
it kind of
manufacturers.
stems from
Mexico doesn't have
conformism
standing. How can you
to
say Mexico has standing in
to their
this
own sort of
case?
leftist ideology. It's not really just yeah. I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird. I mean, they're still not as sort of dumb and crazy as your typical right wingers, but like they're still pretty nuts. Unfortunately, and right wingers is more like superficially they seem more normal. Superficially they seem like more mentally sane, but like if you dig into it, you see that they're even more. You see they're even more like out of it. So this is what I'm saying. Like pretty much everybody is just kind of crazy.
Mexican
Yeah.
cartels are using for weapons are in fact of a specific.
There's been a bunch of tracing that has occurred. They definitely weren't going to talk about Fast and Furious. The U.S.
I think I watched.
tells you the politics of who's bringing the claims and why
I don't know if anybody's still there. For some reason today I'm not getting many people. Not getting many people.
The nature of the animal. Sorry.
I was going to say one question. Out of country, out of state plaintiffs.
What's this? This is just.
Have to put up
Oh no, this is the wrong thing.
For the cost of this lawsuit or no?
Okay, why anarchist capitalists?
So it's what's amazing though is if you're the foreign victim of slavery, you can't sue a U.S. corporation in the United States, as the U.S. Supreme Court ruled. But if you're a foreign government playing politics, wanting to blame your drug cartels for the problem, wanting to blame U.S. gun manufacturers for the problem of your drug cartels,
Yeah.
you can sue without a problem. So,
I don't know. Tell me. Do you want to watch something? I can comment. What do you think about this thing? See what I commented there? I think it like the U.S. government is kind of responsible for these Mexican drug cartels, right? It's like with prohibition, like you're saying, like literally by having war on drugs, it makes it illegal, which makes there's a huge room for like black markets, and that is what gives rise to the cartels. It's mostly to fulfill American demand for drugs, for U.S. and also Canadian like demand for drugs. So that is definitely a big problem. I'm not pro drug. I don't like drugs. But I think it's probably better overall if we legalize them and then we like give proper services to citizens to just help them out. rehab stuff, and you legalize it, you tax it. Yeah, I'd say probably better solution.
I can't.
Probably better solution.
It should be laughed out of court.
What Mexico
Honestly,
does emphasize, by the way, is they have strict gun control. There's only, I think they've only licensed 50 gun sales in the last year. They say in the lawsuit, they only have one place you can buy guns. My question for Mexico would be, how is Mexican gun control working in Mexico? Doesn't seem to be working very well. But somehow it's U.S. gun manufacturers' fault? I mean, it's incredible.
That is phenomenal. It's at the
What do you think about that? I'm not sure. Again, the problem is that typically making something illegal creates a black market.
You're on.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. I mean, they're not technically banned because you can get a Class 3 license and own an M16.
Not let a lot of people sell your guns. Put smart technology.
I mean, they're not
so only
fully
the person
banned.
who buys the gun can ever use the gun.
You can get a Class 3
and
license.
Trace them all so that we can have mass surveillance and biometric identification of every.
Do I really think the average person needs access to a fully automatic gun?
Would limit the effect
No.
of using US guns, which, of
I
course,
do
by the way,
understand the
would only
argument
replace
that
US gun
restriction on
manufacturing
guns
with other gun manufacturers.
technically
Mexican drug
does
cartels have
violate
been rather
Second
resourceful at
Amendment.
The skill of import and export.
I don't really think people need tanks.
all right, amazing.
I don't
And now
really think
you had
like the
brought it
average
up.
person
There's,
like I don't really want
news in
vigilantes
the
being able
Sandy
to
Hook
just
case.
own a tank.
What's
So I
the
think there
latest
should be at
development
least some level of
So that was a
restriction
case the US
on what
Supreme
people are
Court took a
capable of
snooze on.
owning.
Didn't get involved and
With that having
interfere
been
at the
said,
preliminary stage when I think they should have, because it's a
I mean, it's
clear
kind of
violation
it's
of
tough,
federal
man.
law.
I'm a little like back and forth
but
with
the
it.
same Connecticut
If you can't
courts
tell,
presiding over the Alex Jones cases ultimately determined
you can get old
The
ones,
Second
like,
Amendment protects the First Amendment.
This is the M16A4.
Because you could say that.
Is that
Hi,
what you-
stretch. She Mexican.
I mean, like there clearly
that-
needs to be
and
levels of
so a lot of
restrictions.
people-
I'm always
was so
amused by
problematic
people who go to
because
like
Remington
the most extreme case in
effectively helped drive 'em into
existence
bankruptcy.
when our government
And
like
as part of the
genuinely
bankruptcy
attempts to keep
proceedings,
other
bankruptcy
countries from
trustees
getting
Sour
more
like
laws.
funky.
They
Yeah,
immediately
sour like
go,
funky?
"Oh,
What'd you
yeah,
mean?
Just
this
call
is
me
illegal
Stretch
or
Bud.
whatever."
Okay, I'll
It's
call
not,
you
like,
Stretch.
something that I think the individual
Alright, I'll make it louder.
capable of getting,
Each of the
owning,
plaintiffs in those
controlling,
cases, which is an extraordinary
paying
amount
for. Like it's
to
not
blame
like
the gun
something that is
manufacturer,
like
but
a
also sets a perilous precedent
easy thing to
for
do.
the desire to blame. They
I'm
wanna
a
limit
I mean,
lawful
no, I
gun
don't
owners'
think everyone
access
should have
to guns
access to own a
by
nuke.
blaming
But I
gun
don't think
manufacturers
everyone
for the
could even
illegal
possibly
conduct
have access to owning a
of some
nuke.
criminals.
So
And even though there's a federal statute that says that wasn't
I don't know.
supposed to
It's
happen,
just like
the
always
US
that
Supreme
argument.
Court
So
sued, probably
I
thinking
feel like
they could
so
rule on it down the
disingenuous.
road,
Like,
not realizing
but
it
no,
would
I don't
drive
really think
maybe
people
not
should
realizing
have
it would drive
jets
Remington into bankruptcy,
and
now they're
like
going to write a real big check.
stealth
Apparently, the
bombers
Sandy Hook
and
police aren't sure if that's enough yet.
I have difficulty
and I
understanding
don't
this.
think
There's a federal
like, the average
statute that
person should have access to all
immunizes gun
that kind of stuff.
manufacturers. So how do we get here?
But when your
period?
government starts saying shit
Agreed.
like
the Connecticut Supreme Court had all the
anyone who thinks they're going to
unique
beat the government
arguments for how
needs
somehow this
nukes
statute didn't apply.
and F-16s.
They basically interpreted the statute in a very narrow way.
Honestly, I
that was
start thinking
contrary to the
maybe
way
we do
everyone
need
else had
nukes and
previously interpreted.
F-16s.
And basically,
like,
Remington
fuck, if our
couldn't wait
president is saying
for
shit
the
like that,
final jury to get
like,
resolved without
like, fuck
having
you,
to go
dude.
to
Who the hell do you
bankruptcy.
think you are?
And now, it'll work for the plaintiffs. The plaintiff's lawyer in that firm are the same plaintiff's lawyers that sue and Alex Jones. Very politically connected firm.
The most
family
powerful
members,
person on the planet,
maybe in
arguably,
the
says
United
to his
States Senate,
citizens,
for example.
don't think about fighting us.
And,
you don't have nukes and F-16s.
But I mean, is there any recourse
Well, I'm
to
sitting there
in
like,
theory,
what, dude?
give meaning to that federal
Excuse me?
statute? Or
And you guys are the
this is
people trying to tell me
precedent
I
now and
can't
there's
even
no
have a fucking
next level of appeal?
At least in
assault
Connecticut,
rifle?
it's a precedent. It's a precedent. A lot of other people are
Yeah.
claiming you
because
got
it
nukes
transitions into a San
and
Diego case
F-16s.
where a San Diego court found
Okay,
another mass shooter case where they're
yeah,
going to
go fuck
allow
yourself.
the lawsuit against the gun manufacturer to go forward.
You can't, I can't
now
have an
there, at least it was
AR-15,
more
but you can
consistent
have
with the
nukes
statute. The
and
interpretation
F-16s.
was if the legal
Yeah,
claim
that makes
is
a lot of
correct
sense.
that the manufacturer
If there's no
violated
threat to the
federal law
government
and
because
that
you're so
violation of the
powerful,
federal law
how did you
allowed
almost
the
lose
individuals to
power
get the gun,
on
then
January
they
6th?
They still can be held liable. But there was some loose
That was a
language
coup,
and
right?
aspects of that decision. But
That
it
was
sets,
an
it
attempt to
started,
overthrow
the
democracy,
best way to go
right?
after
Yeah.
the
It
Second
almost
Amendment
happened.
is to just
Well-
take
Got
the
nukes and
ability of anyone to
F-16s.
make
Like,
guns
I feel that's like an extremely
that's what they're doing.
hypocritical.
Someone said, can you sue Jack Daniels if
I
someone
think that's
drinks too much and
extremely
gets into a
hypocritical-
car accident? I mean,
hypocritical.
we're not
And I
far
honestly
off from
don't
there. It's
think
just that
that
politically, there's no
anyone
incentive
was
to do
close to
that.
overthrowing the US
The
government on
political war
January
now is
6th.
on firearms. Is
Do I
there
agree
any
with what
defense
happened?
or
No, of
any,
course not. I
let's say,
think that shit was
economic
stupid.
workaround say, okay, well, they'll all shut down
think,
business in Connecticut, Massachusetts, wherever. They'll shut down in states which are likely to grant these types of lawsuits, and just go move to Texas, Florida, wherever. I'm not trying to be stereotypical on states. Would that
I don't know, and also just the like couple of people who are watching.
I actually do think it's too expensive.
Won't fully resolve it because a lot of these are federal cases.
In some ways, I think it needs
and they're
to be.
allowed to sue where,
I mean,
a lot of these
I was in the army. In some cases, it needs to be.
Some of their risk, like the NRA.
In some cases, it's over bloated. Like the amount of money they spend on new technology is like
thing to do.
It's
these other companies, Democratic states, got to wake up to the reality
our
of where it
budget
is
greater than the next 15 countries combined, or something like that.
But it would only provide one layer of protection.
The math might be wrong at this point. It may not be accurate.
Individual states who have foreign government.
And I think most of those countries, by the way, that
and individuals can sue foreign governments in select circumstances too.
I was 92 Alpha or Supply and Logistics.
For a foreign government,
was a dude that put in information or data into a computer and said, like, we need this.
Robert, we covered it a while back. Whatever happened with the lawsuit against China for COVID?
That kind of shit. Like,
it was, that was a case I had to look up because I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, we'll put it off for next week because I haven't. I'll do a follow-up. It'll be an interesting one to follow up.
The only reason the government fears the people is because we have so many guns. If our guns got taken away, the government would have no reason to fear the people.
I don't know why there's. I think it's kind of funny, like how there's so much fear of the government of the people. In other countries, it's not a big deal. People aren't so afraid of the government taking over. I mean, it's a uniquely sort of U.S. thing of like fearing government authoritarianism. And I mean, of course, the government should be true authoritarian, but the idea is if you got a democracy, these people are elected. You can just vote them out of office at any time. You know, like it's like.
You no longer have the ability.
If we are the wealthiest country, we should have probably all the best stuff.
Remove a case to federal
that would make sense. I think it's only a logical thing.
But it means that you have to sue them only in
state courts. We should be spending that on
I'm looking
bettering
right now at
the lives of everyone who lives in
I'll get a partner in Canada, and boom, I'll be good.
As far as infrastructure,
I mean, I thought there would be limitations to whether or not a U.S. law firm could have foreign partners in the first place. I have to check Canadian partnership law, but there are definitely rules in terms of ownership or limitations on the number of partners and foreigners.
We're spending money on war and
most big American corporate law firms have foreign partners.
The healthcare.
So they can only
none of them can be sued in federal court. They just provided, full protection.
The military-industrial complex has a very strong hold over what's going on in our country.
Go to federal court to beg for protection. But this was news to most people.
Robert,
this is the case.
I'm going to be cynical. If a federal court wants
notice how I said government option. I didn't say mandated
favorable
government.
To a plaintiff or defendant, they'll find a way to grant diversity jurisdiction, or they'll find a way to grant jurisdiction so they can hear the case if they want to. If they don't, they'll send it to state court and just use this as a precedent.
Government option.
It's just a game. It's a game that makes people fundamentally nauseous, and for good reason. And speaking of the game,
healthcare, you can choose to pay for this program. It could be.
Now, I got to ask you something. This one we didn't get to, but Kim Gardner. Sorry if you covered this already. This is from Alex Ambrose. I came in late. What do you think about the St. Louis judge dismissing a murder case because prosecutors failed to show up in court?
I don't think they're still going to be running out of money.
Briefly about it, Robert. What happened, and what do we make of it?
A lot
I've seen that information. 90%
so one is
casualties.
The St. Louis prosecutor who's under substantial investigation for a range of misconduct.
It's not about. That's not what the military is about.
Prosecutors not show up in court, and that means the charges get dismissed. There's no remedy for that. That's it. The only remedy is to take some ethical professional action against the prosecutor, but she's already under ethical review and it still keeps going. The second thing is the Missouri Attorney General had to sue a couple of counties, including St. Louis and Kansas City, in order to stop them from enforcing mask mandates that violated their own various procedural rules and other issues. He won already in St. Louis. I don't know if he's won yet in Kansas City.
A lot of death, a lot of destruction, a lot of chaos.
The Attorney General for trying to
I'm not going to say
limit
that
these mask mandates not
war doesn't suck. I'm just saying
manner,
that
not meeting legal standards.
To try to stop it
and then the McCloskeys did get their
in my
pardon from
opinion,
the
an
governor
oxymoron.
in
By that I
Missouri. So
mean
now they have been convicted of
it's
nada.
there's evidence that
But
states
understand,
that
Kim, the
war is not a
prosecutor does
male.
not show
I'm
up.
sorry.
I
A
agree
human
that
murder.
Americans
What
are
hearing
uniquely
is this that they don't
paranoid
show up
about
to?
big
Is it a
government.
People have
procedural
been going
hearing,
to
or
war.
is
I
it
don't really
trial
understand why.
and
Like,
they
I don't
don't
think
show
it's
up? I mean,
I don't
Maybe
think
what
it
does that
could
even
stop
look
at some
like
point.
to someone
the
like
big
me?
government is
Because
actually doing all that
The,
much.
the,
I mean, it
the
is a
defendant
problem
shows
if the
up
government
and the
starts
neighbors
spying
prosecutor
on you
shows
and
up and
stuff
fight
they
each other at times. Like,
like
identify
restricting you
themselves,
and
no
stuff.
prosecutor,
But
case dismissed.
people
Is that what it
disagree on
looks like?
stuff.
I
State criminal court.
I don't know. I just don't think there's all that much need for paranoia and to a certain extent that paranoia is almost it's a result of you voting for politicians that you knew are going to be authoritarian, right? And also it's a lack of I support direct democracy, like having a direct democratic component, like to be able to vote on issues on like laws directly. Um, and I think that is a problem that there isn't that in most places. So that really should be implemented. That way you'd have a direct control on your government. I think that would be much better. Um, and also like you shouldn't have appointment, you know, especially like you think about like judiciary appointments, or like ministers and stuff like like secretary, whatever.
Terrorist
That
organizations are
is
overseas.
that is
They're
uh,
now using
you know
American
I don't
citizens.
know. It's
If you're not
anti-democratic in a way, and I don't
which
think
was warned
I don't
initially
think that's
this was
really
going to have
a great
been
thing.
used on American citizens,
And what he meant
is
was
now
my
being
client
used
hasn't
on
paid
American
yet.
citizens.
So
Then,
and the judge is
hence
like, oh
why
yes,
they
Mr.
keep
Green,
saying
we'll put this
white
off a little while.
supremacy
The
is the
so
greatest
it's
domestic
the way the game
threat
is played
to the
in
United
state court,
States,
unfortunately, but it
because
reflects very poorly
I
on what
can't
is
say
increasingly a dysfunction.
that I haven't heard a lot of people state that Trump rallies were white supremacist rallies. I have heard people state that this alt right protest of white supremacists. I've heard that very often, and if you're classifying anyone who's a Trump supporter as a white supremacist, or anyone who goes to a Trump rally as a white supremacist, you then would be able to have grounds to claim anyone who's a Trump supporter. And this is conjecture. I'm looking at this like in a progressional line. Like, couldn't you then, if you personally think that anyone's a Trump supporter is a white supremacist, claiming that as the largest threat to the domestic country, then use the Patriot Act against American citizens, claiming they are eventually down the line terrorists,
Yeah.
white supremacists.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
District
we're
attorney's
in a
office
scary
in
place.
St. Louis, and there's
Yeah.
a good number.
Let's
of
not
these,
forget that America is basically 50 different countries that are united under one flag. This is exactly why nationwide national programs are so impossible to impose.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be like that. It should be, I want to basically believe in one country globally. See, I believe in one global country and just have nationwide programs. That would be much better. That's the way things should be. That's the way things should
Robert,
be.
I'm going to go upstairs to get the dog for 1 second, but let
Didn't
everyone know what you
expect
think before he rushes
anti-federalism.
meltdown following the McCloskey's acquittal. And I'll be back in 30 seconds.
She deserves
I'm
what Viva's
yeah.
referencing is
Streamer is a globalist, so not gonna make any progress.
if I'm
I'm a total
Yes.
and not just a globalist, but like a I believe in a global unitary government. It's like with less independence than U.S. states have now.
Private
That
security, yes, for me.
that is that's my position. I think is much better. It's the only
So
way to
would
ensure
you
fairness.
say that a unitary state is preferable to federal state?
Absolutely, absolutely. Unitary state is the only way to achieve fairness. To me, federal states means you have different laws in different places, which like literally means that you're not treated fairly. Like if you're in one place you do something and it's
Hitler
legal.
wanted to make the world all one country too, haha.
Kinda, but like, okay,
That
sure.
is the dumbest thing I have ever heard, lol. Fairness.
What, you don't believe in fairness? Like literally the fundamental ethical principle of fairness. Like literally a fundamental ethical principle of fairness. Like literally, what? How is that dumb? It's like, no, like you're dumb if you think that's dumb. Okay, literally. I really don't understand this kind of thing. Like, this is what I'm saying. These like leftists are kind of silly because they believe in the right things, but not for the right reasons, and you could see that there's irrationality. But right wingers just are completely gone, just complete batshit crazy. Like I always say this, right wingers, there's just no discussing or reasoning with them. They're just complete savage degenerates.
Your idea would be beautiful, but it's never going to happen.
Why do you say this again? No, I don't. Just stupid pessimism. I
Different
don't.
laws in different places, but laws that are more suited to the local area and people.
No,
The
no.
people in Bavaria are different from the people in Berlin.
Actually, they're not. They don't. Like, again, I think ethics are universal, but all you right wingers, you pretend to claim, oh, the leftists are there. They don't believe in moral. They believe in moral relativism. Oh, moral relativism is destroying Western civilization, and then they actually defend moral relativism with this shit, right? Like, literally. Bunch of idiots. Jesus. Man, but I say this, I'm very clear about this. Right wingers are just complete degenerates. Complete savage degenerates. But leftists are already pretty degenerate and savage, but like right wingers, they're just completely gone. Uh, there we go. There we go. Okay, let's watch. Let's to counteract all this chuddery. Let's go watch some. Okay, not this. Let's go watch some of that thought slime.
Content warning. This video is going to contain some fairly gross discussion about an alleged sexual assault and also a lot of discussion of sexual harassment. So consider yourself content warned.
All right. I'm in fast.
Have you ever been lonely? I mean, really lonely? Being lonely fucking sucks. And we don't like it culturally when men are vulnerable. Toxic masculinity means that men have to appear strong and in control at all times. If you're lonely, toughen up. Meet people. Don't be a loser. You should be strong and charismatic all the time, like Indiana.
Yeah, this is what people I tell them, I'm a quote virgin in cell. And like it's like it's my fault, Like literally I'm a bad person for being bad. Like people don't like me, and then when I say that, it's like then I'm bad. Not only do I not get liked, but then I'd get doubly unliked because they literally don't like me because I don't get liked.
Thanks for the unban.
Yeah, I unban. I just ban
the
when
way
I
I
get pissed off.
talk is to say something thought-provoking. I am not a hardliner
Yeah,
on
I
any
do that too.
position, meaning that I have an open mind to anything. All of my opinions are subject to change.
Yeah, that's good. I just get frustrated because I talk to everyone, leftist, rightist, whatever, and I always bring up my stuff, and like they're just like, oh, they always just say this is unrealistic. They say, I don't understand why, but they always say my stuff is unrealistic. Yet they always talk about how we have to have
artists are another argument I use for my claim that male sexuality is dangerous. Kappa.
Wait, what? So you claim that male sexuality is dangerous? But wait, but what do you want to do about it then? What do you want to do about it? But yeah, I just get pissed off about this idea. Anybody, if you ever come up with a good, bold new idea, they'll say that will never happen. It's impossible, without realizing that the kind of society right now that we have, liberal democracy, right? That is like literally, was a utopia, right? The level of technology that we have, that was a utopia. That seemed completely impossible, right? And yet it happened. So why like the kind of stuff I'm saying is actually much less of a difference than what the way the world is now compared to how it was like a few hundred or 1,000 years back. So things can improve. They can improve dramatically. And so I just for me that is just like it's not an argument. It's not a proper argument, and it's just silly, and it's annoying when people say it won't happen.
Anna Jones or Steve Buscemi. If women don't desire you, means you're a beta male loser. Besides, even if you didn't have it in your head that
Yeah.
talking about your feelings was
Once humanity
Everybody
cures
talks about
cancer
this.
and has unlimited free energy, then the world may be able to come together.
But it can already come together. I mean, it doesn't require curing cancer and having unlimited free energy. We can already do it. We can already do it. We've already got lots of energy now. I mean, we've got, fossil fuels are providing us with abundant energy compared to what previously we had. Now we're developing all sorts of renewable energies, which means that then it's unlimited, unlike fossil fuels, which eventually run out. So we do have actually unlimited. I mean, having renewable energy means unlimited energy, and you can potentially have a huge amount of it. So like literally, yeah, yeah. Um, we can do it. There's no reason. There's no reason we can't come together. Like literally, it's just a question of will. If you want to come together, then you'll do it. So what I want to see is just developing that will. You just have to, if there's, if there's the will, then there's like the means, or what, I don't know what. Like, yeah, you can just gotta want it, and it
Real
can happen.
quick, have you ever heard that the word Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth?
No. I guess that's sort of funny, although um, I don't really know what to think. I mean, what do you think about, like, I don't support this idea of leaving Earth. I support the idea of like colonizing other Earth-like planets, but not leaving Earth. You should either live on Earth or an Earth-like planet. So you shouldn't focus on leaving Earth. And well, then the Bible, of course, like I don't support the Bible. I don't like the Bible. It's interesting as a historical thing. It's definitely not a good book to follow, to, as a sort of as a guide for your behavior. Um, so yeah, that's my. But yeah, that's interesting.
for little baby weaklings, who are you going to talk to? You're lonely. If you had someone you could talk to about your loneliness, you wouldn't be lonely, would you?
America
Now
is
imagine
an
some slick-talk
example of all people and religions living together in harmony.
Well, except that is not quite the case, right? Because you got like these racial tensions and stuff, for instance. Um, but yeah, yeah. But the point is that you can live well enough in harmony. Sorry. And so you can kind of live in harmony,
Are
and
you
I think it's
principally
possible.
against federalism? I only ask because there are situations where legislation you prefer could be more possible in a federal system. In Spain, the local government of Catalonia is more progressive than the central government in Madrid.
I prefer the principle of unitary governments, as opposed to, separate, local governments. So federalism in that sense. If it's more progressive, I don't know. Then I'll be sort of, if a particular like local government has policies that are more in line with what I support, then I'll of course be pleased that that is happening. While at the same time, I would still advocate for unifying the government system, because I think that is a good in and of itself. So even if that means you lose a bit of the, you know, the benefits at a local level. But I mean, in any case, if you're going to have local governments that are more progressive, some more presumably you're going to have other local governments that are more regressive. So at least, and I think that's the most important, is to avoid especially to focus on where things are the worst. So I would say that it's more important to just have everywhere at least meet a certain threshold, rather than have some places that are better and some places that are worse. Again, I believe in fairness. So I think fairness, I think things should be the same everywhere. I believe in equality, right? Equality under the law. Federalism is opposed to that. It's basically about inequality under the law, because literally you're subjected to different laws according to where you live. So I don't support that. I think laws should be the same everywhere. That is fairness, fundamental equity, right? The fundamental ethical principle of, equality under the law, equality of opportunity, um, fairness of outcome, that kind of thing. These people who don't believe in fairness, that they're just nuts. Okay, like literally they're bad, because like literally fairness is like it's an ethical principle, right? It's a moral principle. So if you don't believe in that, you're immoral. So
I have to
yeah.
go. I only Twitch on Wi-Fi. Bye, dude.
Okay. All right. Bye. Thanks for stopping by and participating.
fucking dipshit comes along and tells you he has all the answers. It's actually really easy to meet people, especially women, whose validation and attention you crave the most. All you have to do is learn some little tricks, and he's willing to teach you for a price. And that's how men like me are suckered by pickup artists. For the uninitiated, pickup artists, or PUAs, or weird creeps, are clowns that teach men to sexually harass, intimidate, and otherwise dupe women into receiving what one can only assume to be the worst sex of their lives. We need to be absolutely 100% clear about something before I can go any further.
Yeah.
PUAs are victimizers. They treat women like garbage,
Yeah.
and they infect men with their
Yeah.
toxic, sex-negative, abusive ideology. As I
But the problem is that you do at the same time, it does provide a useful sort of thing. I mean, the problem is that you should actually focus on the stuff that they talk about, but just not in the way they talk about it. But the point is that they're talking about like a genuine issue that is of interest, but they provide bad advice about how to go about it. But it's not even like overall the broad brushstrokes. It is kind of correct, but then more specifically, the kind of advice they give is like silly because it's
But
about
I am
like
sex negative Kappa.
what do you mean? You're sex negative. You don't. Oh yeah, because you're a Puritan. Well, what do you mean by that though? Are you just well? You say Kappa, so you mean that that's presumably maybe like a joke, which I would imagine saying that you're sex negative, but yeah, I think it's bad. Sex is like bad for your body. Like I think it's unhealthy. It weakens your body, but I still think people still want it, so you might as well like do it, but you should
I am
my,
Sigma.
okay um but basically you should just focus on like just going for it, not doing like the tricks, these pickup artist types, they always focus on like tricks, and I would say that that's like a mistake to focus uh, on tricks. I would say it's much more it's much more useful um to just like be honest about what you want and just say like how do you like to like go on a date or something, just do that, and then that's it, and then just be kind of however you normally be, and then just kind of but sort of be pushed for for something, and just make things progress, right? So you kind of like talk progressively more about intimate stuff. You progressively you can touch like more and stuff, and you just kind of yeah, it should come kind of naturally, I think. So that's kind of
There is
my
another
advice.
idea of federalism that it can avoid intercommunal conflict.
Yeah.
That is why Bosnia and Herzegovina operates under a federal system.
Yeah, well, if your society is made up of idiots that like are nationalists and stuff, then you're gonna have that. But like, my point is that you should you should create a society where most people aren't nationalists, where they aren't like they aren't like that. So that is, I think personally, I think Unitarianism is better. Is better. Um, Again, you should be subjected to the same laws. There's not really any reason to not be subjected to the same laws. I mean, literally, I don't even understand like the differences between like Bosnia and Herzegovina. Like, presumably, it's not all that. I mean, because it's not even like it's like what it's this. I don't even know how like it's divided to what the Bosnians, the Croats, the Serbs, or something, right? Like the point is that like it's how is their thing even going to be different, like literally presumably laws are going to be pretty
Well,
similar
in the
because people
meantime, you have a system that separates the Serbs from the Bosniaks and Croats.
yeah, but like why like in practice, why would your laws be different, why in practice it should be like
Do you
how
think you can go from incel to Sigma?
yeah, sure, of course. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's just that you're no longer in cell, but it's kind of the same
Just
like
go on the
outlook.
grind set.
I don't know what the grind set is. Um, you mean just to just go on a grind to do lots of sets? Is that what you mean? Like more like the set grind, I guess. Um, yeah, the, yeah, definitely
Grind money.
grind money. Oh, you mean like okay, yeah, yeah, but no, but then you're talking about like money. Then that's just being about like a sugar daddy or whatever. I don't really think that's a great idea. It's kind of you're still kind of paying for it basically. It's just kind of like going for like hookers. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that idea. Um, but yeah, I think if you get a proper system, you can avoid having like interethnic conflict. I think if the interethnic conflict arises because your system is imperfect in other ways, like I said, if you've got an economy which ensures equality between people, if you've got like your basic income and your income cap, your wealth cap, then you've got a system that like creates fairness between people, and as a result, there's not really any need for separation, right? Because everybody's treated fairly. So, I mean, the ethnic thing only arises because some ethnicities precisely end up being like more rich than other ones, and so then there's resentment. If you've got a system that treats everybody like equally, then and where outcomes are very similar, then you're not going to have that kind of interethnic resentment. You see, so that is
Well, the
why,
reason is to stop one ethnicity from becoming so angry that
yeah,
they start ethnically cleansing again. And I honestly don't think finger wagging at them is very useful.
hmm
It would be nice if the Serbs, Croats, and Bosniaks were free from racial
I think I'll turn this
bigotry,
off.
but they aren't, and you have to take that into account.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But the point is, I'm pretty sure they could be made to get over, especially precisely because, like I've been saying, this ethnic stuff is actually only arises if you've got like differences in economic outcomes between these groups. If everybody is more or less at the same level, there's not going to be so much of a, like not going to be so much interethnic resentment. Which is why I think you can. That's the whole point. You've got to have a system which like creates in any case, it's a good in and of itself to have fairness between people. And on top of that, you get the added benefit of not having the risk of having interethnic tensions nearly as much.
Explain my experience with this culture, it may be tempting to feel sorry for these guys, or, me, but keep in mind that I and all the other suckers like me are adults who made shitty choices. The women preyed upon had no say in the matter, and they're the real victims here. Are we good? Is that clear? Okay. The, seduction community teaches lonely doofuses how to meet women. They run seminars, sell books, have web forums, subreddits, podcasts, documentaries, and TV shows, all dedicated to crunching the numbers on the best ways to get your sad little penis into as many vaginas as you can. Their teachings run the gamut from genuinely kind of helpful things like dressing nicely and not reeking of BO to the cartoonishly evil, like breaking down women's self-esteem or taking advantage of laxer sex crime laws while traveling abroad. If you think that's an exaggeration, let me read from a book by a prominent pickup artist named Rushdi. While walking to my place, I realized how drunk she was. In America, having sex with her would have been rape, since she couldn't legally give her consent. It didn't help matters that I was relatively sober, but I can't say I cared or even hesitated. I won't rationalize my actions, but having sex is what I do. That's words that he himself wrote, and then thought you would read these words and think, yes, this is a man who I want to emulate. They cover a broad spectrum of ideas and techniques, but there's one core belief that they all share. Attractiveness is not innate, but rather a skill that can be taught. They teach that you can look like Quasimodo and still have sex with all the hottest women you've ever met, because a woman's standards are negotiable. Remember, if you settle for an Ugo, you're a loser. You should make a pretty-o? You should make a pretty-o settle for you. That's how you win. That's how you win at dating. You see, men and women are different. Men are visually stimulated, so a woman, of course, has to be pretty to be attractive, whereas women are emotionally stimulated, so a man can be a complete Ugo and still win a woman's hearts and loins by demonstrating value. Women don't
Well,
want...
there is some truth. It's not entirely true. It's not entirely. I mean, it's not entirely false. It's not entirely true. Like but it's partly true what you're saying. Like it's not that there is some of that. There is some of that. It's just like you say. Well, not sure if that's the case in Bosnia, as the Serbs are the ones who were favored by the government. Yet they were the ones who lashed out. But I think promoting equality is part of a solution. Yeah, but it was because they were not. They were favored by the government, but they were afraid of no longer being favored, right? Because then they would be part of like Bosnia, and then they would be like the minority, and that is why they lashed out, because Bosnia like was gonna potentially like separate, and then that was like they weren't happy about that. Um, so like yeah, in any case, you shouldn't have differential treatment between ethnic groups. You shouldn't have, and like yeah, as long as everybody economically does pretty much the same, then there's no grounds for particular resentment. And I don't think that, like again, I don't think the Serbs were just lashing out of aggression. It's not that they're afraid of becoming like becoming oppressed then later on. I think maybe I'm mistaken about this, but yeah. Um, so I mean, uh, like, I mean, think about Africa. Look, African countries are like composed of like in one African country can have hundreds of ethnicities. Um, and so okay, sometimes you've got a bit of strife, but overall, like it still can kind of work, And so like you imagine in Africa, if you had one country for each ethnicity, you'd have like 2,000 countries. You have literally 2,000 countries in Africa. Do you imagine what a mess that would be? You imagine how just incredibly impractical and anti-economical that would be? Um, you imagine how better it is to have much more like unification. It's way better. It just makes the economy function much better. Instead of having to cross a border every 10 kilometers or something, you've got proper, just the sort of thing where you've got a free trade, freedom of movement within a much bigger area. Um, that's much better, much better. Um, so I'm absolutely in favor of more unification. And I think this kind of stuff can be overcome if you've got a proper. I mean, yeah, there was this. Maybe in some instances you'll have that, but you can also then have, a more like intervention. If you've got a unitary government, then the government can intervene and like put in prison the people who start militias and stuff, right? You can jail anybody who starts to like, advocate for like violence. So you can also do that. Presumably, if you've got a unitary government, you presumably also have a pretty strong thing, right? If it's pretty big, and so the government can just intervene and like prevent that from happening. So
A
yeah.
handsome man. They want a high status man. Now let's just look at this list from Forbes of the most powerful people on Earth. Let's look at the men on the list who are all very high status, because this is, I guess, what we can assume women want. And what woman wouldn't want to fuck Mark Zuckerberg or Warren Buffett or Benjamin Netanyahu? Beefcake all around. Yum yum. You see, women aren't attracted to men because of any agency of their own.
But there is some of that. I mean, there is some of that. They do like lots of women do want like status and money and stuff. Like it's like
They're just biologically programmed to seek out high status men. Notice I use the word biologically there? That's because this is all very scientific and not at all just some weird projections of male insecurities. Good news though, you can learn to have status. Just be an alpha male with lots of confidence and a casual disregard for other people's boundaries. Just keep
no, but it's not just that. I mean, to some extent, also your appearance gives you status, and of course, then it's also about how other people, what connections you have, how they look up to you, how they treat you, how much, and of course, how much money you have, and stuff like that. And you say, I think part of the difficulty is that different ethnicities inhabit different geographical areas, which differ in economic prospects and development. Part of why the Igbos were economically successful is because of the location along the coast. Um, yeah. Yeah, well, again, what I said is that you equalize economic outcomes even if they've got different like prospects and development. Because, like I said, if you provide a basic income to everyone, then everybody has that at least. You provide an income and wealth cap to everyone, everybody's limited by that. So actually, you've got very few differences in ethnicities at that point because it all gets equalized by these policies. So not only these policies are good in and of themselves because they provide fairness, but they also limit interethnic tensions.
practicing. You can do it. There's absolutely no aspects to whether or not a woman finds you attractive that are beyond your control. Just be an alpha male, like Mark Zuckerberg. It seems really important to these guys that things like attraction or status are within your control. But why? What would they have to gain from this? What possible motivation could they have for getting people to believe something so counterintuitive? Why would they keep insisting this over and over? I just don't understand.
But it's kind of true. Like it's not entirely wrong.
Stuff works. I mean, not the parts that are about unlocking sex mind control. That's mostly horseshit. I mean that it suckers in dumb, horny, and credulous men. And it's not hard to figure out why. It worked on me. If you're lonely and thirsty, it's easy to be manipulated. The idea that whether or not people like you is
Wait, so he himself was sucked into this POA stuff, apparently?
within your control, that's really appealing to some people. And Pickup offers a community of like-minded dump lords who validate both your preconceptions about the negotiability of a woman's consent and also the weird pseudoscience nonsense that the rest of the community fills your head with. When you're already super lonely, having a community changes everything. Even if you have to believe stupid things to be a part of that community, it's easy to shut out your own doubts. Not to mention, not everything they say is, wrong. I mean, PUAs believe a lot of terrible and sleazy stuff, but they do have some good advice to offer. They tell guys to groom themselves, look nice, smell nice, make eye contact, stand up straight, talk to strangers, make friends. That kind of thing sounds rudimentary, but when you grow up a socially stunted mega nerd, it can be helpful to have someone explain how to wear clothes that fit and what to do with your hands when you're talking. When you get rid of all the toxic attitudes and nonsense, there is some truth to the idea that you can get better at being the type of person who people want to be around. The problem is, once people see results from the surface level stuff, it's hard to make them see how harmful the rest of it is. It was for me. I was suckered by Pickup for a long time, and while I didn't necessarily
See, that's interesting. So wait, they were apparently, yeah.
subscribe to all of their colorful views, it did make me think of women as a means to an end rather than people. I didn't want to, but it did. I learned to be a more charming person, on the outside anyway, but that loneliness didn't go away, because I wasn't connecting with people. I was manipulating them, and I knew it. You'll never get rid of loneliness that way. It keeps you lonely. It alienates you from everyone trying to genuinely connect with you, because you're trapped in your head, trying to strategize instead of connecting back. I think that's kind of heartbreaking, because there's so much room for a version of this that isn't so toxic.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just think about like how to manipulate people. Like you use words to. It's like it's like about focusing on like on what words to what words to use to trick a person into liking you or something, and what little tricks you do to to manipulate emotions, I don't know. It's just weird. Doesn't Thought Slime use they them? Oh really? How can I know? Really?
A version that teaches men
Well, but this is the weird thing. Then there's they them, but I think that to me that's weird. Like I get called out because it's insulting to say it, but I like saying it. I think it's better than claiming that you're plural.
to be less afraid of socializing with women without treating them like interchangeable sex puzzles. Something that treats women like human beings who deserve respect, regardless of whether or not they want to have sex with you. My suggestion for lonely dudes: if you want to know how to attract women without hurting women, don't ask men. Ask women. They'll tell you what they like, what they're sick of, and how they wish men would behave around them. Even then, remember, individual women are different, and there's no
But the problem is that then they'll tell you, that these pickup artists will tell you that like women, you shouldn't trust what the women actually say they want, and that's kind of true. Like the women they don't actually necessarily, they won't be truthful about what they actually respond to. So I don't think it's a good idea to ask women actually. I think they're right about that, unfortunately. Um, they're not women aren't good at actually like rationally figuring out what they respond to.
rule of thumb that's going to make you able to be attractive to everyone. And anyone who tells you otherwise,
I need
trying
all
to sell you
pronouns
something.
according to the Twitter. Okay.
Also, you can just get a dog, and then people will want to be your friend because you have a dog. And even if they don't want to be your friend, the dog will be your friend. So just get a dog. Dummy, adopt a dog. Go ahead, do it. Just get a dog. Hashtag get a dog. Hashtag get a dog. Hey,
Okay. Oops. Nah, it goes all the way back. I wish it would bring me back to the bottom of the thing, but it doesn't. I don't know. You said I knew they're envy, but not all envies use they them. Okay. Okay. All right. Again, like I say, I advocate. To me, this is all complicated stuff. This is why it's a pain to have these different, the different words for different genders and stuff. I think it would be better to have like a hermaphroditism, where everybody is like the same. Um, but it's interesting because at this point you've got they. It's like you and you, right? It's the singular and the plural. And like now you've got they and they. It's the same, it's you and you, second person singular and plural, and then now they and they, second person again singular and plural. And the next step is saying we. So to be consistent, I'm gonna say we to refer to myself. I'm gonna we're gonna say we from now on to refer to ourselves. Um, okay. For some reason this page is stuck. I can't scroll. But yeah, it actually could be interesting to look at these. Gender abolitionism, yeah. Well, it's not just gender abolitionism, it's sexual differentiation abolitionism. It's I want literally to have like people to be biologically hermaphroditic, to be like have both sexes at the same time. I think in the future that's the way to go. That way you don't have these sort of separate categories of people. I think that would be cool. I mean, you could, it's not absolutely essential imperative, it's you can do without it, but I think that would be a great idea. That way you could get rid of all sexism, right? Since there aren't separate sexes, you get rid of homophobia since there isn't such a thing as liking the other sex or not. Like everybody's just the same sex. Get rid of transphobia since there isn't such a thing about changing sex or anything. So you see what I mean? That it's perfect. It solves all those issues. Um so, and like having separate sexes doesn't even make sense. Like it just literally it forces women to have two children on average instead of one. Like, if everybody could have kids, then you only need to have one kid per person on average. That makes more sense to me. Um, um, and this thing is just stuck. I gotta reload it. Okay, well, maybe I'll go for more recent ones. Superman video about one weird horny tweet. Figures wild anti-homeless propaganda. Or in traditional masculinity. Anti-homeless.
what's that? You want a content warning? Sure, why not? I'll give you one. This video is all about PragerU treating homeless people like they're not human. So if you'd rather not hear the most privileged people on Earth complain about the least privileged
I
people
really
on
do
Earth,
believe
maybe give this
Inequality to the highest degree. Can't say I agree with you taking that far, meaning your belief in promoting such a same level of sameness. Could you get yourself pregnant? Well, ideally you'd have some sort of mechanism that that prevents that. Like, you'd have some sort of thing where, I mean, that's one problem with hermaphroditism. And one way you can do that is that you have some sort of genetic marker recognition or something, so that it can tell if it's coming from the same person. Like you could have some sort of marker that would like it would analyze, like, I don't know, like the, you know, when like the sperm meets the egg, like there'd be some sort of analysis going on that can tell if it's the same, like comes from the same sort of stuff. If there's too much similarity, then it gets, or like maybe like superficially there'd be like some superficial coding, and then if the superficial coding like comes from like you or something, then it would be, it would be then recognized as being from the same person or something. In any case, I think it would be much better like to have just complete artificial creation of people. So you just have, um, you just create a new organism in vitro every time, and that way you can specifically like target just gene edit all the genes and make sure, you make sure they've got like good genes. I don't actually support, um, you know, like natural sexual reproduction. I think it's much better if you can, because it could lead to randomness. It could lead to like all sorts of random defects and flaws. I think the only way to ensure that a person's going to be healthy is to have, genetic checking, so that you check the genes and then you edit any genes that are flawed, and you even enhance, you enhance genes to make them as best as possible. You say, Angela, that sounds kind of insane, but cool beans on making people have snail sexual organs. Yeah. You say, I don't know what gender is. Everything we do is based on artificial norms inherited from society. Um, well, it's not. I mean, it's not entirely artificial. I mean, it's also based on biology. I mean, the reason you have these artificial norms is still because there's a biological component to it. Um, but yeah, I think it's what we should do is get rid of these separate sexes, separate genders. But it's much better. It's much better like that. That way you don't have to worry about these different categories of people. You don't worry about what's your pronoun. You don't worry about like your homophobia. Like there's no coming out. There's nothing like that. No sexism. No worry about that. There's no potential for it.
Just want to skip. You gotta press record before every video. That's key. Okay, so full disclosure, I wanted to make fun of a different video today, also by Prager University. The cringiest video I've ever seen them put up. It was a video about how to celebrate the 4th of July progressively. It was gonna be a lot of fun. We were gonna have a few laughs. Everybody was gonna walk away happy that I did it.
Oh, didn't see you there. Well, once again, it's a time of the year where we celebrate the birthday of the US of A. You may think of hot dogs, fireworks, a day at the beach, and listen.
So I go over to their YouTube channel to download the footage, but then on the way, I found a different video, and it bears responding to. It's called, What Do We Do About the Homeless? And boy, what a sinister title. Just take a moment and ask yourself what the bloodthirsty hobgoblins over at Prager University think should be done about homeless.
You say biology has forced for these norms, but they're not biology based. Well, they're partly biology based. I mean, they are, in as much as the norms do kind of correspond more or less to the innate tendencies of the sexes on average. You say gender is, from my understanding, the social response to sexual dimorphism, and it grows up around that. Yeah, I mean, it is based on biology. It's not entirely artificial. I mean, I don't know. Again, this is where I'm a centrist, you see. I see the nuance between both positions. I don't take the leftist idea that it's entirely fake. I don't take the rightist position that it's entirely biological. No, it's like, it's a mix.
People. If you ask me, it's give them homes, let them live in homes like humans should get to, because...
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You do that, but you don't do that by giving them homes. You do that by giving them a basic income, which enables them to afford a cheap home. That's how you do it. Exactly. This is how you end all homelessness. You end all homelessness by providing a basic income.
And I can't stress this enough. There are people with guts and ears and skeletons and everything.
What? Like our ancestors, males were powerful who mostly hunted, and women stayed raising children. But that is made up norm, not biology based. What do you mean? But that was, I mean, it is biology based, because the men were stronger. Women, like, were more focused on like child rearing and stuff. They are instinctively more geared towards that. They are biologically like more sensitive. Men are like, biologically more into like working hard, and not so much into kids, and like there is that kind of stuff. It's true biologically. In my class, my med school class, just to tell you, right? Smart people, right? Med school. Still, there's a huge sexual dimorphism in terms of like what they chose in terms of specialty. Like literally, like half the girls wanted to go into pediatrics, like whereas there's only like maybe a couple of boys that wanted to go into pediatrics. Um, and like gynecology, obstetrics, same thing. Like is mostly girls, but especially pediatrics. Yeah, like the like so many of the girls wanted to go into pediatrics. It's crazy. Like really, you say, well, women could hunt too, and men stay raise children. It just norms forces the authority. But no, because women literally were biologically weaker. And but my point is that that is not really a great thing. But the point is that there is a basis in biology, and we should correct that basis in biology. Jamie, thank you. Jamie, pi number. Thank you for following. Um, so the point is that what I'm saying is that you should get rid of the sexual dimorphism. You say, but yeah, but we adopted some ancestral features to modern day norms. Of course, like at this point, there's no good reason. But the thing is that there's still the mental inclination. So women are still more interested in the kind of things that made them sort of, for which they're biologically also more adapted. So they're still more interested in having kids, for instance. They're still more interested in taking care of kids. Like I said, they're going into pediatrics and stuff, for instance. It's like it's still that. Um, not all of them, of course, not all of them, but we shouldn't force it onto people. But the point is that there is a difference, but we certainly shouldn't like force people to respect certain norms, and that is a problem. And that is why that is a problem with like conservatives, right? Is they actually want to shame people who don't adhere to rigid norms, and there are going to be plenty of people who don't adhere to those norms, and then that is a problem. And I agree it's a problem, but it's a problem that then can be even more fixed by getting rid entirely of these separate sexes, so there'll simply be no grounds there'll simply be no grounds for any kind of sexism, any kind of homophobia or transphobia, since it just won't be a thing. Since there's no, it just can't. It's literally not fe- potentially feasible. Like not potentially a thing that could exist. We say, well, they could have different brain structure through evolution, but I think it's mostly based on social structure and of course their race. Honestly, I think there is quite a bit of difference in brain structure. Um, honestly, I would have used to as a kid I used to think it was like more like a brain like a social thing, but now I'm realizing, I mean, come on, I mean, you look at the extent to which it's kind of you do, I mean, you see like some girls aren't like typically like feminine, and sometimes that then they become like butch or whatever, or sometimes transgender or something, right? Right, and vice versa. So like I think if it wasn't biological, you'd see a lot more people who would be like butch or who would be like um who or something like that. And also like there's that story of that person who got the penis cut off during a botched circumcision or something, and then that person was turned into a female on the outside, like the genitalia were turned into female, right? And then that person was like super unhappy and didn't understand why and stuff, and because that person literally felt that it was still a boy. And so then that gave rise to that person ended up then was told, and that person eventually committed suicide, right? So so that was so obviously there does seem to be a biological component, and I would say honestly, like people say like, right, the whole argument for homosexuality and for not oppressing homosexuals is that homosexuals literally don't choose it and it's biological, right? So I feel that the left pivots. It says that it's all social except when it's not. It's social when we like it to be social. It's biological when we like it to be biological. And so like gender roles somehow are entirely social, but your attraction is entirely like is entirely biological, because that is why we say that literally you can't choose, and then it's just who you are and stuff. You say, but because I don't take gender seriously, I wouldn't see reason to change genders. So like, well, it's not. Yeah, yeah, you're basically slave for artificial norms. Yeah, but that is also true. But you don't have to follow those norms. But it's true that I don't agree with like shaming people for not respecting the norms. I don't agree with that. But I think most people are happy to follow the norms precisely because of the sort of biological basis to it. Um, no, but there definitely is a big biological basis. There is a big biological basis, but we shouldn't shame people for not adhering to their norms. You see what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't. You should. That's why. And I agree. I don't see reason to change genders. It's true. You shouldn't take gender seriously. And that's my whole point. If you get rid of genders entirely by eliminating the biological basis for genders, then finally individuals will really be free to just be whatever they want to be and not worry about fitting to a particular norm. You see.
Homes are useful places where you can go to not die if the weather gets extreme, like, for example, if it were the hottest summer on record, where you can keep your stuff with reasonable confidence that it will not be stolen, and where you can go to the bathroom without buying anything from Starbucks. But do you think that that is the solution that Prager University comes to? Do you think that giving the unhoused houses suits the agenda of petrobillionaires? No. They view things a little different. It's not a problem of people suffering, but a dangerous nuisance for people who do have homes, the real victims of homelessness. You see, the homeless, as PU like to call them, because they want you to forget that they're talking about human beings with their own internal lives, so they choose a particular phrasing that lets them present homeless people as like a horde of zombies, just kind of spontaneously erupt from nowhere, and it's the job of policymakers to manage where they go. Bad policies attract the homeless, and good public policies redirect the homeless towards some other place, presumably with more homes. This video is hosted by Christopher Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, the guy who invented pretending that critical race theory is a big problem we should all care about. Seriously, the fact that it's the only thing the right wing talks about anymore is all this motherfucker's fault. He's the guy that started it. And the first thing he wants you to know is that this isn't a housing problem. People being unhoused isn't a housing problem. It's a human problem.
Let's start with a couple facts. First, the word itself is misleading. Homelessness is not primarily a housing problem, it's a human problem. The primary drivers of homelessness are drug addiction and mental illness.
So the solution is obvious. Just pump more money into mental health and addiction services, right? That's clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just help people with mental health issues and addictions, and then 3/4 of your problem is solved, right? You're gonna bring that up, right?
Second, despite these conditions, the homeless actually make rational decisions about where they want to live. Not surprisingly, they move to the most permissive environment they can find.
Okay, so they're suffering from drug addiction and mental illness, but still make rational decisions about where they...
Okay, you say a swimming event at the Olympics, women's sections, WRs are like 20 seconds apart. Not sure if that's relevant. XD, and when in the mixed gender swim event, as soon as a team sends the female member to pull for length, the team suffers in time against the other team for using men on that lap. Except that for swimming, for certain swimming events, I know that women are actually, it's one of the rare things for women to have the world record for swimming. Like, they actually swim faster than men. I'm not sure which kind. Probably more like longer swimming stuff. But I know that for certain events, women actually do better, which is a very unique sort of thing. No. But my whole point is we should get rid of that way also for sports. Like you say, it's because they're witches and float. Okay. Like literally, if you know what needs to be done is we get rid of separate sexes. That way there aren't these issues also in sports. That way you don't have these separate categories of people in sports. You don't have to worry about the bathrooms, no separate bathroom things, no separate, just none of that. No different, it's like it's kind of caste, right? Having separate sexes divides people into different castes. I think that's a mistake, and it would be much better to have just a single sex, so just not even have a sex at all. If you have one, it means you kind of have zero in a way. That makes much more sense to me.
Want to live. I would argue that certain mental illnesses actually make it pretty difficult to make rational decisions all of the time, and that's not to say that mentally ill people are incapable of making choices for themselves, but sometimes they sure do make irrational choices because that's what mental illness is. Likewise, I think being dependent on a drug might complicate the reasoning you make about where you live if you can only get that drug in certain places. It's all a fig leaf. He's just saying they're rational actors because it's beat conservative robot economics 101. If we allow ourselves to believe that some people may not be in full control of their actions, then it becomes more difficult to justify punishing them for those actions, which is, spoiler alert, what he thinks we ought to do. The world must be a fair, sensible place in which people's lives are dictated by the choices they make, and therefore, everyone deserves to have whatever they have and lack whatever they lack. If you're born with a mental illness, one that, for example, makes you think that everyone you know is part of a satanic conspiracy to murder you, you might run away from your home and live on the streets. And that choice might seem rational to you, based on your delusions. That doesn't make it rational. So does the person this happened to deserve to live on the streets? What about someone whose untreated mental illness causes their parents to grow frustrated and kick them out? They didn't even make a choice then, it's just something that happened to them, based on things beyond their control. If we take a look at the source for this data, something that Rufo conveniently leaves out of his assessment is that a significant portion of people become unhoused due to physical health conditions, and many more, women in particular, become unhoused due to trauma and abuse. And that's weird to me, because why wouldn't you mention that? Why would you only mention mental health and drug addiction?
Yeah, and there's abuse. Exactly. This is a great point with basic income. With basic income, you can leave a home and you can have a home of your own without having to get a job or something, right? You can just be
The part about physical health conditions is a major part of the study, because one of the key findings is that people with health problems are not getting adequate care at emergency shelters. That's one of the things the people who wrote the study want you to take away from it. People with the longest experiences of homelessness, most significant health concerns, and greatest vulnerabilities are not accessing or being served by emergency shelters. As policymakers design interventions for unsheltered homelessness and balance investments in emergency housing and permanent housing, they will need to consider whether emergency housing is adequate or appropriate for a highly vulnerable population, half of whom are trimorbid. Again, this is their source. The data they cherry-picked is about drug addiction and mental health, but the data about physical health, abuse, and trauma is ignored. And I think that what's happening here is Rufo is trying to frame homeless people as dangerous and unpredictable, and hopes that their audience's biases against drug addicts and the mentally ill will make them leap to that conclusion, despite the fact that drug addicts and mentally ill people aren't necessarily more violent than anyone else, and in fact, mentally ill people are by far more likely to be the victims of violence than the perpetrators. But he doesn't think you think that, so he's trying to use those things to make him seem scary. is what I'm saying. It's hard to paint abuse victims as though they're going to steal your car stereo, but you can do that pretty easily with drug addicts because most people already think that about drug addicts. He gets into how homeless people are dangerous criminals later. That's a part of the later that he'll get to that. Something else that sticks out to me here is that they're not talking about how to prevent people from becoming homeless, but rather how to dissuade people who are already homeless from living in your city, which will obviously reduce the homeless population in your area, but it's not,
that's
you're not fixing the
horrible.
problem. Like,
PragerU are just fucking demons from hell. They're just completely, like, they're just subhuman scum. Degenerate subhuman scum.
if all homeless people are forced to live out in the woods, that's not a win. That leaves them vulnerable to Sasquatch attacks, among other logistical issues. If the problem is having to be around homeless people, sure, I guess you're fixing that problem, you horrible ghoul. But if the problem is that other human beings are suffering and dying needlessly, that's still an issue, and you just swept it under the rug. You just kicked the can down the road. It's someone else's problem now. So much for conservative personal responsibility. Rufo goes on to illustrate his point about incentivizing homeless behavior by offering the example of an underpass that straddles the border between Los Angeles and Culver City.
The Venice Boulevard underpass on the border of Los Angeles and Culver City brings home this point. The Los Angeles side is full of tents, and the Culver City side is empty, because the two cities have different public policies. Los Angeles has effectively decriminalized public camping and drug consumption, while Culver City enforces the law.
Now this one is a particularly egregious lie, a real fun little lie he just told. Not a misrepresentation, an outright lie. You see, according to the Los Angeles Times, the US Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled last year that homeless individuals may not be held criminally responsible for sleeping on government property when no alternative shelter is available. Bonin, whose council district touches Santa Monica, Culver City, and El Segundo, said he believes many cities in the region are not complying with that decision. Instead of allowing people to sleep on their sidewalks, they are encouraging people or compelling people to move to the city of Los Angeles to do that, he said. Buscano and Bonin said that for years their constituents believed that with sidewalk encampments allowed in their city and not in other communities nearby, homeless individuals would gravitate to their neighborhoods. Such a disparity can be seen on the Venice Boulevard at the 405 freeway. Bonin said, with homeless people on the LA side of the street but not on the Culver City side. People are understandably asking why the hell that is, Bonin said. And it's because the city of Los Angeles is obeying the court dictates and the city across the street isn't. So it's not that Culver City is enforcing the law. It's actually precisely the opposite of that. They were refusing to comply with the law, which states that homeless people can sleep on government property if no alternative housing is provided for them. Instead of letting them do that, they're either strongly encouraging anyone on their side of the border to go to the Los Angeles side, or allegedly just picking them up themselves and dropping them off there.
I don't
and,
have
just, by the way, just
an
one little
opinion
thing,
on
that LA Times
Chris
article that I just quoted, that's their source. This article, which debunks their claim in the second paragraph, is the only source for that claim. The claim which the article says the opposite of. But like, okay, the lie they're telling is pretty weird, right? Because if it were true, and Los Angeles legalized street camping and drug doing, but Culver City didn't, Los Angeles isn't failing to enforce the law. They would have different laws. You can't enforce a law that isn't the law. It's like he's implying that there's some universal objective set of laws to be enforced, that it's illegal to have the wrong laws, and that he, Christopher Rufo, knows what the right laws are, and those are the ones to be obeyed, not the ones the court dictates, which seems a little totalitarian to me. Rufo goes on to cite two examples, which he claims support his belief that cities with permissive attitudes attract homeless people like moths to a flame. The population of homeless people in San Francisco that became homeless in San Francisco is a scant, negligible 70%. And the population of Seattle that became homeless from outside Seattle is 52%, the majority. That proves it, right? Homeless people are moving from the good places, which treat them badly, to the bad places, which treat them well. Case closed. But just in case Rufo's rigorous mind missed something, let's take a look at the sources he provided for this data. The article from KQED, which sources the San Francisco claim, once you scroll past all the boring info which actively contradicts other things Rufo has said in this video, weird, had this to say on the subject. An oft-cited statistic from homeless advocates, about 70% of people who are homeless became homeless while living in the Bay Area. That means 30% are coming here to be homeless, says Cooper. That's still a ton of people. I think until we start to talk about those numbers, we're not really addressing people's concerns. When we deny that San Francisco is, as Fox News would say, a magnet for homelessness, if we don't talk about the actual facts, we really lose an opportunity to deal with this population. So it doesn't really source that claim, it just sort of says that it's an oft-cited statistic. But you might notice that it does not say that San Francisco attracts homeless people because of its lenient policies about street camping or whatever. You might also notice the weird jump in logic that Audrey Cooper seems to be making here when she says that because some people were homeless before they moved to the Bay Area, they thusly moved there to be homeless. Like maybe they moved there to try to find a job, or because they had friends and family there, or they thought they could find a home there, though that last one's maybe a little unlikely given housing prices in San Francisco. Either way, it doesn't say what Rufo claims, but it's nowhere near as bad as how he twists the second source. The data about Seattle comes from the City of Seattle 2016 Homeless Needs Assessment, and watch how Rufo presents it.
In a research survey of homeless migrants in Seattle, 15% said they came to access homeless services, 10% came for legal marijuana, and 16% were transients who were traveling or visiting when they decided to set up camp. But this dramatically understates the biggest draw of all, the de facto legalization of street camping, drug consumption, and property crime.
First of all, Rufo claims that 51% of the homeless population in Seattle was homeless before they lived in Seattle. Of the people who moved to Seattle after becoming homeless, the majority were from the greater Seattle metropolitan area, about 32.4% of the homeless population. That number brings us up to about 81.3% of the population being from like around Seattle, which is a lot less scary sounding. Only 15% of the homeless people were from a different state. Furthermore, Rufo discusses that 50% of people were transients, traveling or visiting. 10% were for legal marijuana, and 16% were there for access to homeless services. A generous rounding of the 15.4% figure. Wow, I wonder if he's leaving anything out there. Oh, look at that, 69%, nice, of the people who moved did so because they had friends or family in the area or had work lined up.
The biggest draw of all, the de facto legalization of street camping, drug consumption, and property crime.
Rufo also failed to note that respondents could give more than one answer, meaning that not all of the people
Yeah, like again, this is yeah. I like what he's doing here. He's really showing all the stuff that's going on, and I just like literally, it's absurd. I don't even bother to look at like the sources and stuff. Like the point, the only point that I really want to drive in here is that you just got to provide housing for everyone, and the way you do it is by providing a basic income to everyone. Literally, that's with a basic income, you can just move to another place. You can just move to another place if the housing's too expensive. You just on your basic income, you move to somewhere where it's cheaper. And also, the way to address housing prices is by limiting zoning to allow construction higher more vertically, so that there's more housing available within a small area.
who claim to move to Seattle for legal weed did it for that reason alone necessarily. Or the 9.6% of people who moved for reasons of, quote, LGBTQ acceptance. Again, this is his source. I didn't have to search this information out. Then he says this.
San Francisco Chronicle estimates that hundreds of homeless individuals move to the Bay Area each year because of the perception that it is a sanctuary for people who are unwilling to participate in programs designed to get them off and keep them off a life in the streets.
No, it doesn't. The exact quote from the San Francisco Chronicle is, also, San Francisco, which gets an influx of about 450 chronically homeless people a year, needs to shed any perception that it is a sanctuary for people who are unwilling to participate in programs designed to get them off and keep them off a life in the streets. It is neither inhumane nor, quote, criminalizing poverty to enforce laws against aggressive panhandling, tent encampments.
Okay, wait. Well, I'm trying to see that it would be a cost for somebody making necessary investments in support of housing and other services without a commensurate commitment to ensure that people who are offered this array of assistance are no longer afforded the option to flout the law with impunity. Okay.
Or defecation and urination in public places. Now, of course it is. I strongly disagree with the sentiment expressed in this article, but it doesn't say what Rufo is claiming it says. It states that San Francisco gets about 450 chronically homeless people a year, and that it has a perception that it's a sanctuary for people who are unwilling to participate, blah, blah, blah. But it does not estimate, let alone demonstrate, that these two things are causally related. It does say that a lot more money needs to be spent on housing many times, but curiously, Rufo doesn't mention that part.
Yeah. But it doesn't even need to be spent. All you need to do is restrict zoning, get rid of zoning restrictions, get rid of restrictions on how high you can build vertically. Like literally, that is what it doesn't. You don't need the government to spend for housing. There's no need for more government housing.
So Rufo starts praising the mayor of Houston, who, despite being a Democrat, is apparently tough on homelessness.
Houston's policy is a perfect example of what Turner calls a tough love approach. The city has built housing for the chronically homeless, formed a coalition of nonprofit partners, and lobbied the state government for more mental health and addiction services. At the same time, Turner has enforced a strict ban on public camping and promoted a citywide campaign to discourage citizens from giving money to panhandlers.
So that's
Yeah, but but then he's actually providing housing.
interesting, isn't it? This guy's policies are to, 1, provide housing and social welfare programs, and 2, to penalize things homeless people do. But when Rufo argues what should be learned from this example, he only talks about the penalization.
If cities stop allowing public encampments and open drug consumption and start prosecuting property crimes, they will have much more success redirecting the homeless away from a life of self-destruction and toward a life of hope through mental health treatment, drug rehab, and job training.
And while Houston is providing more housing and is removing street camps, it seems that they're just redirecting the people in the street camps to the housing, not arresting them or punishing them. Now, I'm under no illusions here. I'm sure the police are being needlessly violent, as they are everywhere. But this certainly isn't the policy Rufo is suggesting. Rufo frames this to be about punishment, consequences, etc. He claims that Houston, unlike other cities, has consequences for theft, aggressive panhandling, window washing, and other street obstructions, and links to the Houston Municipal Code's laws against those things, and not any evidence of those laws being enforced more so than most other cities, which likewise would have laws against those things because almost everywhere does. His claim that theft goes unpunished is also just buck fucking wild. He claims that California has decriminalized theft under $950, and I don't think I have to tell you that that's not true.
California progressives push for more drug injection sites and have decriminalized thefts under $950. Houston imposes consequences not only for theft, but for aggressive panhandling, window washing, and other street obstructions.
He's citing a 2014 bill, which in fact recategorized theft under $950 as a misdemeanor rather than a felony. It's still a crime, and it's still potentially punishable by jail time. It hasn't been decriminalized. Rufo presents other cities as lawless hexscapes, where politicians are afraid to spray the feces off of sidewalks because hoses are racist.
A Seattle politician opposes hosing down feces-covered sidewalks because hoses are racist. Houston fights in the courts for the right to clean up encampments.
Sounds like critical race theory to me, demonizing our white hoses. There's no way that there's any context that makes this go from a bizarre non sequitur to a pretty reasonable thing to say. But just in case, let's take a look to let's Google this. Turns out that this is a reference to a manufactured scandal from 2017, where Seattle City Council member Larry Gossett didn't want to spray a homeless encampment that locals said smelled bad with a power washer because it wouldn't actually fix the problem. It would just hurt people. Like just hosing down an area is going to force people out and maybe ruin their stuff. And yes, also clean the sidewalk. But it doesn't solve the fact that these people have nowhere to go. And as long as that's the case, they'll live on the street. And as long as they're living on the street, they're going to piss and shit on the street because they don't have a fucking bathroom. And also, he pointed out that it looks uncomfortably like the way fire hoses were used against civil rights protesters. He never used the words racist, racism, racially insensitive, or anything of the sort. But Rufo did go ahead and put the word racist in quotation marks in their citations. Very honest stuff. Seattle, surprise, surprise, does not have a policy against spraying down feces-covered sidewalks in general. And they did clean this encampment. People living there be damned. So it's a little disingenuous to say that Houston won't wash their sidewalks if they're covered in shit. It's a little disingenuous to claim that the motivation behind this was some kind of insistence that hoses are racist. What really chaps me about this video is that even if they weren't lying constantly in it, which they were, as I've demonstrated many times, even if the evidence they offered was 100% unassailable, the solutions they're offering don't even try to fix the problem.
Burrito Chip 95, thank you for following. Thank you.
They just want to make things difficult for homeless people. They just want to force them out of their cities because they don't like being around them. What do you think's going to happen? No matter how hostile you make being homeless in your city, it's not going to do shit to prevent people from becoming homeless. Tearing down homeless encampments or giving cops more powers to harass and arrest drug users just makes things harder for the people whose lives are already the hardest that lives can be. Rufo talks a lot about compassion in this video, but I don't see any evidence of it. It looks to me like when Rufo sees a homeless person.
No, these people are horrible. All these sort of Republican types, PragerU types, they're horrible.
Abused, traumatized. Might have been kicked out of their home for being gay and didn't have anywhere else to go. Maybe a mentally ill person, desperately in need of treatment. Maybe somebody who lost their job, as thousands of people did just recently because a lot of jobs weren't sustainable during the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe somebody who was unlucky enough to get hurt and their doctor gave them a painkiller to make the pain go away. And now they have to have that painkiller every day. And maybe that ruined their life. When Rufo sees another one of God's children, someone who feels all the same things he does, somebody who was once someone else's baby, living in squalid camps, pissing and shitting on the street because nobody will let them do it anywhere else, shivering, wet, and cold in the dark, he thinks to himself, God, why can't someone make them go away? Not me, though. I'm making fun of a guy on the internet for saying stuff like that. Wait, that's not much better. Let's go ahead and donate $200 to the Period Purse, a nonprofit which gives menstruators the sanitary items and education they need to have safe and healthy periods, no matter their situation. Menstruating is expensive and potentially dangerous under the types of conditions that homeless people are often forced to live under. Link in the description if you want to check them out. By the way, because I know some people are going to ask, the reason I use the term menstruator is because not all women menstruate and not all people who menstruate are women. And some people are actually just eyeballs in disguise spying on us and reporting us to the powers they... Hello and welcome to the...
Okay. All right. Great. That was great. Wonderful. You say homeless were helped in London during the London 2012 Olympics or something, or presidential visit. I can't remember which, because it would have been blight for them to be seen during such an event. Apparently, yes, they get help when it's convenient. Yeah, exactly. Like, people don't care. I wish people would care about homelessness, but they don't. I wish that would just provide a basic income to everyone. Like, to me, it's just a disgrace that this is allowed to happen. But apparently, no, it's just okay for most of these right wingers. So yeah, you say someone says need unblock Boston Strong, Brock Lesnar 95, but it is unblocked. I don't know. Maybe somebody else blocked you. I don't know. I did unblock. I did unblock. I don't understand the. So that's what you are. That's why it's 95 to read a chip. But I did. I unbanned you, unblocked you. I did. I didn't even. I don't understand. Apparently, somehow it's blocking me automatically. I don't understand. If you're there, like, I don't understand this. Yeah, you're not banned. Look, you weren't banned. Okay, for some reason you're banned. Okay, Boston apparently was banned. I don't know why. It's like it's almost as if somebody's hacking into my account and like I don't know, is somebody doing that? Is somebody banning you on my behalf? That's weird. Maybe I've still got a mod. Wait. I gotta find out. Maybe somebody's banning you. Wait, mods. Okay, well, look, I unblocked everything. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. Slash unmod. Okay. And slash unmod. Okay. I got no more mods. No more mods and Dorito chips, so I guess that's yeah. You just create a new account. Wait. Unmod at Mintel. Okay. Okay, so I got rid of everyone as a mod, so nobody can unmod you. Guac. Okay, bitch. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. That's weird. You're a bit suspicious of climate code red. This COVID has reduced so much of climate change problems. What do you mean? No. What are you talking about? I mean, there is a problem. It's just a sort of ongoing problem. It hasn't reduced so much of climate change problems. It hasn't. Like, literally, it hasn't. Just I'm not too worried about the climate thing, but it's you say 90% of planes reduced. There's no, but now it's going back and now it's coming back up, and like literally people are gonna want to use the planes again, and so you got to do something. You got to do something. But I think things are being done in any case. Things are being done. Technologies of renewable energies are progressing year by year. I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about the global warming thing. but it is nonetheless, it is an issue that has to be addressed. But it's not quite the apocalypse that the lefties will have it. It's not the hoax that the righties will have it. But at least these 2 years, climate definitely gone down. No, no, uh, no, absolutely not. Climate has has not gone down. No, um, no. It remains a problem, big problem, because so many people have been laid off. Still a big problem. Still lots of economic productivity. Still lots of goes on the answer to global warming. Well, yeah, less energy consumption companies. Like literally, all you're saying is that people should become poorer again, and that then there's going to be less global warming. There's still plenty of global warming. Okay, there's a bit less energy consumption. Um, doesn't mean that there's no like that this is silly. Turn that is silly. There's still plenty of carbon emissions, and the only reduction is because people are poorer. So like, do you really think that's the answer? We'll just make everybody poor? Like you say, like yeah, and more energy consumption at home. Also that, yeah. Um. So no, that is nonsense. That is nonsense, Turnos. You say yeah, but it's production that uses most energy. Nonsense. Again, it's nonsense. The look. You want to see carbon emissions by month? I don't know if we can find something. No, because you can't actually, you don't see these CO2 emissions. But we can see monthly CO2. Maybe. You'll see that it's not going down. Charts. Okay, here's up to 2021. Notice how it's still going up. Okay. Okay, here we go. Here we go. CO2, look at this. It's not like it went down. Here's 2020, okay? 2020, still going up in 2021 and 2020. Okay. So, no. You say it's production. Yeah, but production is still going on. If production had stopped, the economy would have crashed and everybody would become super poor and would be like Venezuela, like undergoing a massive like recession, economic recession. Why it goes up and down? This is a weird chart because of the carbon that gets sucked up in the northern hemisphere spring by all the deciduous trees, and then it gets pumped back into the atmosphere when the leaves fall. That is how it works. And how much air pollution counts for carbon? What? You say production is still going, but it has reduced drastically? No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Now look at global GDP. Global GDP per month. I don't know if you got recent ones. This is probably old stuff. Oh yeah, no, because this was production. No, this was New Zealand anyway. World GDP by year. For some reason, I'm not finding a good graph, but the point is that I've seen it. I've seen this stuff somewhere. Okay, wait, here, maybe. Okay, industrial production. Okay, look at that. Okay, this is like the levels 100, I guess. This is 100, this is 90, okay? So there's like a dip, yeah. Okay. There's a dip here, it was like 105 and now going down even at the bottom peak of like 80. So there's just very temporarily there's a big dip here. Okay. But then it just went right back up. It went right back up. So basically, not a big problem, not a big deal. You see, but it hasn't. So no, that is weird. That is weird stuff that you're saying there. Um. I don't know. Should I watch some more this? The War on Traditional Masculinity. You can't just calculate by production, you have to go by overall logistics. Well, it was also that. There's also trade. There was also, we saw that. It was three things. It was in production plus trade plus something else. So
Contempt warning. Most of this video is about
so you see, you understand. The effect of COVID-19 on yeah, but it's just temporary, and it's gone back up because the economy hasn't crashed. Okay. It's just not a thing. COVID, it doesn't have an effect, and like literally, if it has, it's because people are poorer. So like literally, all you've done is made people poorer. Bravo. Yeah, look at that. There we go. It went down. Look at what went back up already. This is not a huge reduction. Okay. Like literally, it just went back to the early 2000s at the bottom, at the lowest most point. It just went back to the early 2000s. Okay, so you have animals too. Well, the animals haven't changed. Like the animals are still there. You know, like what? So no. Global warming is just as much of a problem, and we gotta fight it. And like, yeah, I was saying that you need a carbon tax, but then one thing I was thinking of is like in in Europe there's a fuel tax that's much bigger than any potential carbon tax would amount to would exert on fuel prices if you just had a carbon tax. You know, and this is something that I want to point out is like taxes on fuel in Europe are like 5 times higher than the tax would be if you had a carbon tax on fuel like in the United States. So the point is that fuel in the United States would still be a lot cheaper than it would be in Europe. Okay. You say, I doubt we can fight over 60% comes from development countries they can't afford. I think we're doomed. No, we're not doomed because renewable energies are improving. Renewable energies are improving, and they're starting to install even renewable energies even in like places like India and stuff. And we can then we'll soon like come up with like it'll become more economically viable to have carbon directly captured from the atmosphere and put back into the ground. So you can even just suck carbon out of the air and put it back in the ground. So it's not a problem. You say you can't just tax people for everything. You'd have to come down everyone for tax evasion. You actually can't really evade tax on fuel, right? The tax is just in your fuel price at the gas pump. Um, you can actually tax people for everything, and yes, you should come down on people for tax evasion. Is it pros that doesn't produce enough electricity compared to our consumption? Again, but technologies are progressing in carbon capture, carbon air capture, so you can literally just even suck back the carbon back out of the atmosphere. Um, so like you can do that, and of course, carbon capture in actual like coal powered plants and stuff can also be done. So that is another thing you can do. Um, that of course is already economically viable. And you can't my point though is that there's this much more expensive fuel tax in Europe, but nonetheless, despite this more expensive fuel tax, people still are using like vehicles that run on fossil fuels, and they're not running on renewable energies, right? So which kind of indicates that in fact it's not enough. It's not enough to just have a to just have a tax. Like you need some more like quote command control measures from the government to make the industry shift towards more renewable energies. You say, oh, also, and at some point we will replace it from coal. Well, what do you mean? But yeah, stuff ends at some point. Yeah. But technology is progressing. Oh, hi, Shao. Hi, Shao. Technology is progressing, right? Um, so we came from coal. Yeah, yeah, we came from coal. There used to be more coal. Now, so no, literally stuff is progressing. Renewable energies are progressing. It's becoming cheaper. You just change stuff with renewable energy, and it'll be fine. Don't think we're doomed. Like it's not doomed, but it is an issue. So yeah.
misogynist garbage that I can barely contain my rage at. I don't know if I talk very sensitively in this video, and I don't know how you're going to feel if you watch it, because it might donk up your whole day. Proceed with extreme caution. Hello, it's me, Matthew. Or is it? More on that later. I have been called many things in my life. A doofus, a layabout, a bear, a cuck, a chad, a goofus, a gallant, and everything in between. But perhaps more so than any other, the label that has been attached to me has been a man, which makes me quite afraid, because those damn leftists are...
But coal consumes most. Chinese use it 70% of all energy. That's why so much emission comes from there. Yeah, okay, but they're also advancing in terms of like renewable energies. You can also slap on carbon capture. Transsexuals are not human. Shao, do you really want me to ban you? They are human. I think I want to ban you. You can't say that shit. Okay. Like literally.
They're old tricks again, and they're teaming up.
It's just absurd. I would say that, you know. Yeah, like honestly, like literally. Jesus, I'd say that people who believe in that kind of shit is like subhuman. Okay, like I say that subhumans are people who adhere to sort of silly ideologies, precisely because they're irrational. And to me, what makes you human is not your junk between between your legs. What makes you human is being able to think rationally. And well, it seems that most people aren't able to do that. LGBTQ hates you, Nathan Law. What? What do you mean you gotta stay in their good graces? Yeah, I know, but in any case, I'm not in their good graces. You say I want to believe, but I also want to be realistic. Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's a problem, but it's just not an apocalyptic problem. Okay. What do you mean you gotta stay in their good graces? What do you mean so I don't get cancelled? But I'm not gonna. Why would I get cancelled? Like in any case, but I'm not doing that because I'm not doing that to stay in their good graces. I do it literally because it pisses me off. I don't like these people. I mean, I don't like poly. Okay, I don't like poly. I still don't like people who think that transsexuality as a thing, transgenderism as a thing, is like not human. Like poly is also a bit. Poly's an idiot. Okay. Polly's an idiot, but I still think that that we shouldn't be doing that. Okay, so like literally, this is absurd. This is absurd. Shout, I unbanned you, but like I gotta do that also. But it's true. I could even almost get in trouble myself for if I allow people to say stuff like this on my chat. You say I don't have faith in humanity. Our evolution is going to shitters. Yeah, but it's not because of technological progress or stuff like that. Or the only reason is nationalism and like wars and stuff like that. I mean, it's really the reason it's going to shitters is because of conservatism. Basically, that's why I don't have faith in humanity. It's really the main problem is conservatism. Literally.
The feminists, and they're waging a war on men, you know. Those dastardly woke lords are out there every day calling men toxic. They've been doing it for decades now, and at no point in that time have I looked into what they mean when they say it.
I mean, there are full-blown groups of people who actually believe that masculinity in itself is synonymous with, like, violence and war.
Last year, the American Psychological...
You say conservatives are not the... What is this? What is this? I don't know what that thing is. Oh, that's like a birth control pill or something. Is that meant to be that? Or is that what you're... I don't know. Conservatives are not the only one who use energy. Chinese are Buddhists. Yeah, but Chinese are conservative in as much as they're nationalists. What I mean is like nationalism, especially. That's what I mean. Nationalists and like having, you know, an oppressing, basically believing in supporting inequality between countries and between individuals within countries. That's what I mean by when I say conservatism, right? I mean right wing politics based on nationalism and inequalities between individuals. William policing of high crime areas, right? Yeah. This is what happens when you police black neighborhoods. Have you seen what happens when you don't police black neighborhoods? It's like it's complete chaos. Chaos ensues. Most people in black neighborhoods want like more, like not more, but they want to have persistent police presence. Okay, this is much too slow.
Oh, there's a lady. Ouch, ouch. You're fine.
The video makes it very clear that the initial warnings that were given were not sufficient. She was taking out her garbage on a Saturday morning at about 6:30, and unbeknownst to her, there was a burglary call in her general area, and a police canine ended up finding her, biting her, and really attacking her. It establishes what happened. It's terrifying also, in that you get to see, an up close and personal look of how horrific this incident had to be for Miss Collins. Her face and her screams kind of tell that story.
Oh, where did I go to him? Nothing. It's not your fault. At the wrong place at the wrong time. Take a seat over here, okay?
She did absolutely nothing wrong. So what we've done is
Well, look, they're not being mean to her. Look, come on, they're not shooting at her. They say you did nothing wrong. Come on, this is trying to make the police look bad. It's not succeeding. Not succeeding. Yeah, exactly. Shao doesn't want to police black neighborhoods. Exactly. Notice, if the United States was really racist, we would be under policing black neighborhoods, not over policing them, right? We're expending resources on the police to police black, take care of black neighborhoods. Literally, all countries are nationalistic. They're tribalist to defend interests of their own country and have borders too, and that's wrong. That's exactly. It shouldn't be like that. That's the problem. That is exactly the problem with the way the world is. Rwanda just taking her trash out with one arm. Okay. So exactly. If there was systemic racism, we'd be under policing black neighborhoods. This is exactly Shal is proving my point. I've been saying this, and Shal is confirming this. See, the racist people don't want to police black neighborhoods.
The officer and his canine partner over the course of a month went through extensive training on how to handle just these types of situations, how to search for people, and kind of maybe even getting back to the basics of canine handling, just to reinforce what our policies and procedures are.
Other than the obvious dog bites to your arm, are you okay? Yeah. Okay.
This is a very unfortunate and sad case that we feel terrible about. Everyone at the department wishes it didn't happen. We wish we could go back and do it over again, but we can't.
We're seeking...
We're trying to get you off.
It establishes what happened. It's terrifying.
I don't understand.
And do it over again, but we can't.
I don't understand this.
We're seeking...
Oh, she's attacked by police dog. But we didn't even see that. Like, we literally didn't see anything about that, the police dog attack. Oh, there. Oh, okay, but now we're not even seeing... Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's a lady. Ouch, ouch. Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
The video makes it very...
Okay, so somehow the dog did something. Like, the dog bit her, I guess. Okay, I didn't even see that. Okay, yeah, okay, so they messed up. Okay, they messed up. It's not like they, like, shot her or something. They, like, literally just... Okay, so they had a dumb dog that bit her. Okay. Okay. Okay, should we go back to this one?
Association release.
Again, overall, the police helps eliminate crime. Okay, percent support for policing by race. Look, I've seen before where they said that, like, they okay, treated unfairly because yeah, but this is some sort of propaganda thing. But yeah, if you actually look at, like, I don't know, I remember seeing this. The problem is I don't remember where I put it. I don't remember where it went, but like, in polling, black people often express disgust at police racism or support more funding for the police. And actually, it's not. It's like, yeah. Yeah. They want police. They want police. They want police. Okay. Most black people still supported hiring most black police officers in 2019. Okay. Black people actually, majority of black people actually want more police, but they say, okay, then there's problems with polling and stuff. Oh, then the optical illusion of black people's unwavering support for the police. Okay, potentially, like they say, yeah. So, yeah, but it's still, so white people have 79% favorable view of, then 58% for black people. Okay, but even if they don't have a favorable view, they still want, like, to have a police, and they don't want, like, to get rid of the police. They want better policing. You need better policing, not getting rid of the police. Okay. So, I don't know. Yeah. So they say they're 5 times as likely as whites to say they have been unfairly stopped by police because of race or ethnicity. That's possible, but it's true there's also more crime in black communities, so it's also then it's just more likely because of that. So there's more police just in black communities. But yeah, of course there are issues, right? But the issue is more that there's more violence, and so there's more police as a result of there being more violence. To a large extent, not entirely. Presumably, there's some amount of prejudice. Not even presumably, like yeah, of course, there's some amount of prejudice, some amounts of discrimination, but overall, it's like this article is basically trying to frame it in a way that's saying that the police is like not supported, but in fact, overall, I think like there is support for police. You say they don't. I must speak for a majority of black people. They don't. They want to police themselves. Well, you can't speak for a majority of black people because you're just one person. And like literally, they're basically we're seeing here, and then they're like literally. So from what I can see, Riskonikoff high. From what I can see, the problems at hand, drugs and violence, though fueled in total by the police, is what worries these communities the most. So the police would of course be supported. Yeah. And I don't agree that's fueled by the police. I really disagree that it's fueled. It's not fueled by the police. Okay, drugs and violence is fueled by mostly by other factors, and especially like poverty and stuff, and like and just a culture of violence. And again, what needs to be done is, again, we provide a basic income, provide provide a basic income, provide more social, like mental health service and stuff. You say you kind of understand cops being aggressive in the US. They have to, because country has so many guns. In most of your countries, rarely someone has a gun. Yeah, exactly. And there's more murders and there's more violence, and the cops are scared for themselves. Okay, like literally. You say I can link you videos for cops has died for not being cautious enough. Yeah, yeah, and cops get shot at all the time. Cops get shot at all the time. I'd be scared shitless to be a cop in that country. Yeah, I would be too. Of course. This is why cops are violent, because they're scared for themselves. Yeah, so that's the problem of this like it's doesn't properly like frame it doesn't properly look at the whole issue. See, again, I'm a centrist. But I'm just centrist. It's not even centrism in like in policy. It's centrism just in as much as I'm actually a rational person who understands that there's a sort of it's a gray. The issue is it's not black and white, but it's a sort of gray in between.
Guidelines for psychological practice with boys and men that trash traditional masculinity as leading to, quote, aggression and violence as a means to resolve interpersonal conflict.
Some people think that being a man is all about violence. That's disgusting. There should be a different, more positive view of masculinity. To associate masculinity with violence is frankly toxic. It's a toxic form. Men are being feminized. The characteristics which make them men are being taken away.
Depending on who you ask, the feminization of men is either harmful, weakening our society, or suppressing innate biological tendencies, or it's successfully uncovering and rooting out toxic traits in men and manhood. It's either a significant negative problem or a welcome byproduct of blurring gender roles and stereotypes.
Strong, aggressive competitors are demonized for their alleged toxicity.
So men who are heterosexual, strong, aggressive competitors are no longer an acceptable part of society. Not really. They are the problem.
That's men strong, aggressive competitors, as opposed to women who are weak and passive and do not compete, which is why men get all the coolest jobs and make more money because they're more competitive. I've said that there are biological differences between men and women that express themselves in temperament and in occupational choice, and that any...
But that is kind of true, of course. But, yeah, you say. A lot of deaths could be avoided if they kept their hands in the air, yeah.
Attempt to enforce equality of outcome is unwarranted and ill-advised as a consequence. Now look, sure, there was some mild, light oppression of women in the past. They were a little bit forced to be domestic slaves. Nowadays, though, just being a man is unacceptable. They've literally made manhood illegal. I believe that there's a danger in our society at the moment.
Yeah, that's where Jordan Peterson just completely goes overboard, and he just completely focuses on crazy stuff. The point what he does is that he completely dramatizes, and he exaggerates the problem. He dramatizes it. He exaggerates the position of the leftists, and he makes it seem like much worse than it is, and he kind of basically strawmans it.
Of making the assumption that our culture, for example, is a tyrannical patriarchy, which it is in some small part, and that any active engagement on the part of young men in particular is indistinguishable from an unacceptable power and dominance drive, which I don't believe. So, as we've learned, whatever it means to be a man is being destroyed forever, obviously. But what is that? Wikipedia defines a man as an adult male human. It's like a guy or a dude. Not terribly helpful. Dracula defines a man as
a miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
Frankly, both of these definitions are lacking. And in the latter case, I would actually say that the words are as empty as Dracula's soul, and mankind ill needs a savior such as him. There are two schools of thought with regards to what it means to be a man. Some people believe that manhood is a purely biological term. For simplicity's sake, I will call this group bozos. According to bozos, there's no distinction between gender identity and biological sex. They are synonymous and also, and this part is important, unalterable. They believe that by reading a person's genitalia, you can determine their future personality, a form of scrying based on dicks and balls and vaginas rather than tea leaves or chicken bones. Bozos also tend to believe that biological sex is binary. There are men and there are women and there's nothing in between. Which means they tend to dismiss intersex people out of hand, to imply intersex people are either statistically irrelevant or lean enough in one of the two binary directions that they can be comfortably sorted into one of the two neat little categories bozos are comfortable with. Both of these assumptions are unfounded and lead to horrible problems for intersex people, such as involuntary corrective surgery.
Okay, what are you saying? Adam Toledo. No, not following commands, they put cop lives in potential danger. I've seen that video. You should threw away a gun a long time ago. Says you're completely wrong and think you're gonna say something that will result in me calling you a bitch at the very end. And then he did sudden move, so cop did what he had to do. He potentially put cop in risk. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Adam Toledo. Adam Toledo. March 2021. Oh, it's 13. What's the best video here? I'm just going to the YouTube one since I'm...
There are nearly 3 dozen chunks of evidence from the short encounter between Chicago police and 13-year-old Adam, but shot that shows how fast it all happened. Watch from the left as Adam Toledo runs by, chased by 10th District Officer Eric Stillman. They stop, and a single police shot strikes Toledo. Total time about 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, yes, I've seen.
Rewind the incident for this second crucial video. About 3 a.m. March 29th. Officer Stillman and his partner have just arrived, handling a call for shots fired. They take this 21-year-old man into custody and say the other subject, Adam Toledo, takes off running. Stillman's body-worn camera records the brief and fast foot chase into the alley. And then this critical moment, frozen in time. Chicago police officials tonight say Toledo...
No, so what they said is that they should have actually unloaded... If he didn't think he was doing a mistake, he should have unloaded the whole clip, because what you're supposed to do as a police officer is either you shoot to kill, actually. So...
has a gun there in his right hand. The slide extended because the gun's clip apparently had been emptied. That gun ends up a few feet away. And what happens next, in a fraction of a second, cost Toledo his life. His hands move upward, and Officer Stillman fires one fatal shot into the teenager's chest.
No! Hey! Stop it! Stop it!
Yeah. Yeah, but he was worried. The point is that he was worried that he's gonna get shot. I mean, he was lifting his hands, but he was carrying the gun. Yeah. Yeah, he's still carrying the gun. So like, what the fuck? Yeah, he raised his hands, but like, if you're still carrying the gun.
This incident was solved in 0.8 milliseconds. So it happened very quickly. It happened probably faster than science has proved an officer would be able to think his way through the situation.
This at least appears to be, from the video, a classic split-second issue. And that's a case where jurors, where grand jurors, where prosecutors, and where COPA are much more likely to be forgiving of the police officer.
But not all experts see the split-second decision captured in this picture the same way.
But look, in any case, he had a camera, right? So he knew. He's wearing a police officer. Yeah, he could be shot in the head. He should open him wires wide open, says keeping hands close to body and do quick turn. Yeah, and he should drop the gun. He shouldn't have been carrying the gun. He was 13. Yeah, he could still be killed by a 13-year-old with a gun. That's not no excuse. That's like it's just
See Mr. Toledo raise his hands and turn around. If you look at that and listen to what is going on, he is following the directions of the police officer and he's shot.
That is true.
Tonight, a police watchdog group
That is
called
true.
the Invisible Institute.
But the thing is that the police officer was wearing a body cam. He knew. He knew he was in trouble. It's the point is that's a gray thing. I don't think the police officer was right. It's a bad situation. It's a bad situation when you're confronted by a cop while armed in a tense situation. Human wrongs. Hi. There's no right or wrong answer to this here. You know, there's nuance. It's not you say it sucks. Of course, though, I don't know if officers should be punished for that sort of thing. It's not clear. Like you can't really say one person. You know, it's not entirely the officer's fault. It's not entirely not the officer's fault. It's kind of a gray zone here. Like this is, I forgot the name of Adam Toledo, but yeah, it's an unfortunate incident. Ideally it wouldn't have happened, but there's not really all that much that could be done. Really. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't think it's so obviously the officer's fault. I mean, it is, but it's it would require very quick thinking and stuff. And I can understand that you're afraid too. You're afraid for yourself. I mean, somebody has a gun. You're afraid that person's going to shoot.
Complaints against CPD officers has updated its data on Stillman on the force since 2015. They say Officer Stillman has faced several complaints against him between 2017 and 2020, none of them resulting in action. Stillman's attorney tonight did not respond to IT.
Wait, what? What the heck?
There are nearly 3 dozen.
Why did
They
it?
say Officer Stillman has faced several complaints
Oh,
against
okay.
him.
So just okay. All right. Yeah, people often look at these situations like they're making a decision not in real time, not with their flight reflexes activated. You say they need to be super cautious. If you've ever been in a fight, you know that's not how it works. Your adrenaline is pumping and you don't have no time to think. Yeah, yeah. Of course, you have no time to think. New Mexico State Police Officer Darren Jarrett murdered during traffic stop. Yeah. Right, so now we're just waiting. Oh wait, okay. Okay, I think we can accelerate.
SOCOM traffic. Gonna be on I-10, eastbound at about the line. Out temp tag 0527 Edward Paul. It's gonna be a white Chevy pickup. One aboard. Can't tell what state the temp tag's out of. Afternoon, sir. My name's Darren Jarrett. I'm with New Mexico State Police. Reason for the stop is your window. It's a little too dark. Yeah. You mind if I open the door? Or if you want to roll down the window more? Yeah. I know you got temp tags. You got registration for the vehicle? Yes, sir. I'll need registration and driver's license as well.
Slow it down since we're not hearing too well.
All right. Do you have insurance for the vehicle? Yeah. Where is it? Is it with the wallet? Do me a favor. Come with me to my vehicle. That way I can run your name and date of birth, and then that way I can get my return. Okay. Go ahead. Shut the vehicle off. If you want, it's up to you. Well, I know. That'll work. Grab the phone and come with me to my vehicle so I can get the return, and then I can make sure that everything's good. Okay. What was your name?
Omar Cueva.
Omar Cueva?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Cueva.
O-M-A-R-C.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, this is 2 times. Oh wait, what? Oh, it's sorry. Oh yeah, because I stopped because they wasn't. Okay.
Well, she's sending the pic. Let's go so that I can run my checks on you. Huh? Yeah, so I can run my checks and talk to you a little bit while I'm running my checks, and then you'll show me the picture right away because I got paperwork I gotta do. You know? Hey, real quick. You have fire money? Yeah. No, I see. Please, do me a favor. You mind if I take it off you for my safety? All right, hold on. All right, let's go to my vehicle, okay? Come on. Oh shit!
Oh. Yeah, he should have been a lot more. He should have been a lot more careful about that. He should have been. He should have been a lot more careful. He shouldn't have let. He should have let him go out the other side of the car. He should have been on I don't know. He should have been on his side of the car. He should have made him come out on his side, and he should have been, instead of doing that, and he should have his gun out. Yeah, big mistake trusting. Yeah, you shouldn't. He was much too trustworthy for this. Okay. I'll thanks, Remain Simp. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I'll watch your link.
Hey, please, get help! Hey, you call 911! Call 911! I'm gonna take your side! Okay! Call 911! He's dead! Fuck!
Yeah. Yeah, this is what they don't understand. Nobody, this stuff happens, and there are no protests against that happening. When are the protests against that?
Sir, come back here with me. Come on back here for me. Come on back. How you doing today? Dude, come on back here. Keep your hands out of your pocket. Keep your hands out of your pocket, sir. Sir. Come here. Sir, come here. 37 Radio 78. Come here. Sir, get back. Where are you calling? Sir, get back. Now. Get back. Get back. Sir, get back now. No. Get back. Fuck you. Sir, get back. No. Now. Get back, sir. Sir, get back. Sir, I am a goddamn Vietnam combat veteran. Get back. And I am not. Fuck you. Sir, get back now. Get back. Get back. Get back now. 1078 Radio 78. Sir, get back now. Sir, get back now. Sir, get back. Get out of the car now. Sir, get out of the car. I'm doing my right. Get back here now. Get to your vehicle. Take the gun down. Well, I don't have the gun anymore. Put the gun down. Put it down now.
At that point, I would be considering to shoot that person. Like, literally. Yeah, should have shot him already. Yeah. Like, literally. Literally. This is what people don't understand when they talk about like the police. The police get shot at all the time. It's what's like 25 people, 25 times a day. Police officers like get shot at or something. Like literally. Oh, slow down. Audio is what's important. Okay. Okay. Sorry. This point's maybe a bit late. Yeah, that dude was too scared to kill him, but of course you're too scared. Yeah. Yeah. Adam Toledo didn't get this much leeway, but it was too fast. The problem is that Adam Toledo was like was really fast, and he was also afraid, and he might have like literally, didn't want to shoot somebody. And Adam Toledo, the officer wasn't sure either. That's why there's only one shot fired, because the officer literally wasn't too sure what to do. The officer was scared. Wasn't sure whether he wanted to shoot or not, and so he shot just one shot instead of emptying his clip, which is normally apparently what the procedure is supposed to be.
Put the gun down! Drop the gun now!
Dude, look at this shit. What he's doing like there. Look at that shit. It looks like he's aiming or something. So there. Look at this shit.
Shit! Stop now!
Look at this shit. You should have shot him right away when he had the gun. What? Suppressing fire and slicing the pie tactics? What is suppressing fire and slicing the pie tactics? I don't even know why this. I don't even know why this stuff even happens. Yeah. Different counters can differ in a way. Not every police officer acts the same. Yeah. He's a Vietnam vet. Yeah, it's true. I don't understand what exactly this is. What was doing there. Yeah. 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 I don't understand. I don't understand how's that attack. I don't even understand what that tactic is. What is that tactic? This guy was suicidal. That's the biggest warning sign. People who want suicide has nothing to lose. How do we know this guy's suicidal? Oh, because he got. Oh yeah, because he's dying. Yeah. Yeah, but how do you know? How are? Comments turned off. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. Let's have a look at that. But then I'm a nasty yeah, white privilege. I'm a nasty chud for like feeling sympathy for police officers who get shot, right? So I'm this crazy I'm a crazy racist, homophobe, whatever, because I think that police officers shouldn't get shot, but whatever. Slicing the pie is a tool that's found on every belt of anyone who puts their name in the same sentence as tactics. Doorways, hallways, and open spaces are not the only reasons to slice the pie. Okay, so blah blah. Okay, so there's this axis. Okay. Use distance to advantage. Less of you and more of them. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm still not sure I get it, but what? Okay, you say it's because the lefties here have a huge set of positions they're supposed to have, and a deviation from you when one makes you pride. Yeah, it's weird. Like I literally told them that they literally know that I agree with them on most things, but no. Like sometimes I say it to refer to people, and that makes me a monster. Um, I don't think that there's I don't agree with this idea that black communities are actually over policed, and I'd almost say that the racist thing to do would be to under police them. So that makes me a monster. Uh. Like literally, I don't know. I think it's wrong that black people are able to say racial slurs to white people, but not the other way around. So that makes me a monster. Um. Okay, so you say, but yeah, I mean, if the idea is that the police officer is hesitant because he was white, we can find counterexamples. Um, like Donald Shaver, he was drunk and stumbling, got shot for it. I saw a video recently of a police officer gunning down some white guy with a stick, though I don't think you could play it on Twitch. Okay. Yeah, most leftists has internal problems. They turn hateful and edgy. Yeah, they do. They're weird. They're weirdos. But right wingers too. Okay, right wingers. That the things that they've got even more. Like I said, they've got actually. It's more deep. Like they've actually got more degeneracy. But because it actually gives them a sort of structure, and so it's more internalized. And so on the outside, right wingers appear more normal, even though they're actually more damaged overall inside. Um. So yeah, yeah. Right wingers are not hateful, just ignorant. I disagree. I disagree with that. They're also hateful. They're hateful and ignorant, but they're superficially they seem more normal. Superficially they seem healthier, but because they actually got so much of this sort of crud to themselves that it actually kind of rigidifies them, and it kind of it makes it's sort of like a surrogate. It's like their entire being is like a crutch. And so superficially they seem sort of like a normal person, but actually it's just a complete false thing. It's just like they're like on life support mentally. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. The whole thing is pretty is very the whole thing is kind of disturbing. You know. Mm. I don't know if you have other videos. Yeah, I don't know. If you got other shooting videos. Yeah, this is not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's see. Police shootings of white people. Yeah. But there you get all this. They don't even talk. I say white and they just put black. Ignored. Maybe. No, it's again. When rich police killings aren't always motivated by my race. No shit. Oh, really? Oh, that's such a surprise that the police doesn't actually just kill people because they're racist. Wow. Man, it's true that the media is going nuts about this sort of thing that black people are being targeted more. Like there is racism, but then they're going like I don't know. I don't know. Like literally this whole thing is absurd. Literally this whole thing is absurd. Like, yeah, there is racism and we should focus on it and where it's happening, and like if you can see that there's discrimination against people, it shouldn't be happening. But like Okay, Zachary Hammond, an unarmed white 19-year-old, was in the middle of a seemingly routine vehicle stop in South Carolina last week when a police officer fatally shot him. Zachary Hammond, 19, was killed July 26. Police have said the officer filed in self-defense during a drug sting, but a subsequent autopsy seems to counter the officer's claim that Hammond tried to hit him with a car. Hammond's death left his family scrambling for answers, but did not spark the national outcry that has accompanied other fatal police shootings in the last year. His name has not joined the lexicon that includes Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and Samuel DuBose. Why? You say it's because violent crime against white people isn't presented as racial